Sorry, we're starting a little late today, but our guest is an engineer on the Death Star, and they just had a catastrophic explosion.
Oh man, that's right. We have a guest today, ladies and gentlemen.
Very special first ever guest. But first, my name is Alfredo, and that is.
I'm Connor.
And you are listening to Cinema Forecast, not Movie Roulette. That's a cool name. No shade, but we are Cinema Forecast.
Could you repeat that one more time? I'm really confused as to what the name of the podcast is.
It's Cinema Forecast. Is the podcast where every month we're randomly assigned a category, and to it we have attached 4 movies. And every week of said month we watch one of those movies and discuss it in the context of its category. And as we were saying, we have our very first ever guest. His name is Erik Gallegos, and he is joining us here from an undisclosed location. Since as far as Connor and I know, he's some sort of like CIA agent or some super wild, wacky shit like that. Top secret clearance.
You're a nuclear physicist, right?
That's just what everyone keeps saying that I do. So I'm just gonna keep the mystery alive and just agree with that. But nuclear physicist, Death Star engineer, kind of the same thing. So if we're going in theme with today's episode, then let's just go with that. That's fine with me.
But first
International
and foremost,
man of mystery.
and a fucking nerd. Huge fucking nerd.
Gigantic. Yes.
That's why we love him.
Big Star Wars lover.
That's why he's here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're talking about Star Wars, ladies and gentlemen.
Hell yeah.
Is the hype there? I'm hype.
I'm excited. We, as you well know, because you are all very dedicated listeners of Cinema Forecast, you know that we started this whole month off. We're talking about the hero's journey. First week we did The Matrix, then Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi one. Then we did Finding Nemo last week, so touching. And now we're doing Star Wars.
Classic.
Episode 4, A New Hope, depending on how you feel about that. Erik, how do you feel about that?
I mean, this is honestly, this and Empire Strikes Back, the 2 movies that I will never tire of and watch far more often than I probably should. So I feel pretty good about it. I guess.
Yeah, you were telling me before we started rolling that you watch this movie every couple weeks. You just will put it on in the background while you do other stuff.
I mean, I may have been a little hyperbolic, but it's probably not far off from the actual truth. It is just kind of, I will do the whole thing of, you scroll through the lists of streaming services on what should I watch. And then somehow I was like, well, I'll just throw on Star Wars while I think about a different movie. And then it just stays on. So
We've been
That's
doing
awesome.
this. We've been doing this thing where when we talk about movies, we kind of like to take it to our first moment with the film, or like sort of our memories of our first times with it. And I would love it if you could grace us with your sort of history, your rapport with Star Wars.
I love telling this story because it's just it embodies so much of who I think I am as a person, and it's just very silly. But my dad was never a huge nerd, but he introduced me to the movies because he thought it would be something that I would like, and nerds are smarter or something like that. I can't remember the actual words that he said. So
and it works because now you're a nuclear physicist.
Yeah, apparently. But he bought the old that VHS 3 movie collection, the THX one with interviews at the beginning, and I'm assuming I watched them at those at some point first. But my first memory of watching these movies, my dad took me to a theater release of Star Wars: A New Hope. I was probably like 5 or 6. I can't remember exactly.
Oh,
But,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
You
it
saw
took
it in
me.
theaters.
Yeah, and it was a very sparsely filled theater. I think I remember my dad and me were probably like 3/4 of the way back. There was only a few people kind of filling out the back area, and then there was 4 dudes like front center, maybe like way close to the front, couple dudes, and they were hyped. And I remember like just seeing them and listening to how excited they were, and I was like, Dad, why are they so excited? It's a movie. And he's just kind of like, it's just some people's thing. And was enthralled in the movie theater with this wonderful movie we're about to watch. And then the culmination, of course, is, spoiler alert to anybody who hasn't seen a movie that's been out for 50 years. But when the Death Star blows up, those four guys up in the front just started cheering, yelling like, "Oh yeah, all right!" And I was like,
Yeah, that was me last night watching this
"Yeah, dude."
movie.
But again, I looked at my dad and I was like, "Dad, it's just the movie. What the hell's their problem? Like, why are they so excited?" And he's like, "Oh, some people really like the movie." And then I, of course, went to the movie theater to see a release when I was 17, 18 years old or something, and I turned into one of those four dudes just screaming along, cheering on the rebels as they blew up the Death Star. So we made
Full
it
circle,
made it
dude.
full
Awesome.
circle, and then now I'm 35 and I'm still the same. So, you know,
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
but
Love it.
that's
Fredo.
first memory there.
No, it's beautiful. I mean, it sounds yeah, I could see that leaving an impression on you. I mean, there's nothing like seeing a movie in theaters,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
The energy of the crowd goes a long way,
Yeah,
and I feel
and I
like
mean,
that does
for me,
really
the
impact
energy
your...
was just four dudes, and those four dudes. Thanks, guys, wherever you are in this world. I appreciate you.
I'm sure they're out listening to this right now. I mean, if you didn't know, we are a monolith in the industry.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, Fredo, what about you? Do you remember your first time?
I don't. I do always remember there's a story. My mom took her younger brother, my uncle, my godfather, to go see, I think, uh Return of the Jedi when it came out. And it was like one of his first times going to the movies, I think, or maybe not. I don't know. Or maybe it was dude, the timeline is all twisted, but I remember either that or Empire Strikes Back, and he was like super excited, and my mom telling me that story of him like standing up in the fucking seat, just ready, like, and watching his mind completely blown by like being transported to another world. I don't remember my first time though. I think I've just kind of, this has always been part of,
It's like the Matrix. It's just a part of who you are.
even more so, I would say,
Even more
honestly,
so.
because
Very fair.
I remember getting the 97 remaster VHSs. And I remember the toys. I remember when I was living in Peru, in like 95, 96, 97, like a lot of my friends that I was playing with, we were playing with all sorts of Star Wars toys, and that was huge, and we were always talking and playing Star Wars, a lot of other things, but like that was one of the main obsessions. It was like Dragon Ball Z and Star Wars were like the S tier for like what we
Oh,
thought, you know.
yes.
Oh yeah.
That was basically me, but also throw Lord of the Rings in there and a few others maybe. Yeah, for me, my house wasn't a big Star Wars house, so I didn't have any exposure to it until, I don't know, I was still like maybe like 7 or 8 or something. And I was over at one of the neighbors' houses hanging out with some kid, and he put on Return of the Jedi while we were like playing with toys and stuff, and I was just like, "What is this? This looks freaking awesome!" I just like the scene of all the people falling into the Sarlacc pit. Like I like clearly remember
Heck
seeing
yeah.
that on the screen, just like this is so cool. What the heck? Went home soon after that. Made my dad take me to Blockbuster and like get all the movies and stuff. And yeah, just uh, like I said for the Matrix episode, this was just something I would just put on in the background all the time. Just all three of those original movies. Love them so much. Super defining for me.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, how many
Yeah,
of us
so
grew up with just this around? So I think internalized for a whole, I think at least 3 or 4 different generations as they keep looping around.
yeah, it is like
Yeah.
just a part of society now. It's like an integral part of
Yeah.
pop culture. It's
Yeah.
been parodied and, riffed upon a million times, which I think is interesting because it in and of itself is kind of a riff in a way. Many people
yeah.
have drawn parallels to Hidden Fortress by Kurosawa as a sort of
Mhm.
inspiration. There's even a point where the words Hidden Fortress are specifically said. But yeah, let's jump
Oh,
into the
yeah.
fucking the HJ, the hero's journey. That's what that always means.
Yes, sir.
Can't
Yeah,
mean anything else.
and as soon as we started talking about this
HJs.
category, Hero's Journey, as soon as we started talking about HJs, we knew that Star Wars had to be in there. And one of the reasons for that is that George Lucas is on record saying that he based this off the hero's journey. So it's in the DNA of the film. And yeah, very clearly to me. Interestingly, though, I would still say it didn't hit as many beats as The Matrix did. That's kind of I would say the winner in terms of the 4 movies we watched. That is the closest to the 17 steps. But yeah, I mean, very clearly, extremely inspired by the hero's journey, and most of those beats are there, and I'm excited to talk about it.
I want to ask you before I forget this, even though maybe. So, I think, did we say so far for how closely it's followed? We had The Matrix 1, then Finding Nemo, then Spider-Man. Was that what we were saying?
Yeah. I think.
Where do you think Star Wars lies between Finding Nemo and Spooderman?
That's a good question. Yeah, I'm thinking on it. My like gut reaction is that is the second closest. Little closer than Finding Nemo, but like Finding Nemo is very close as well. So yeah, I don't know. They'd have to review that, and maybe we'll let the fans decide in the comments below. I mean, do you have a take there?
Me? No, I think they're pretty close. I think that's part of the fun of why I asked. I think it is a sort of tied for second, sort of 2-3 situation. Yeah. Very sort of
Spider-Man
close.
Definitely 4th place. Like when we did that, like the structure was all over the place in terms of how it fit into the hero's journey. But
did you guys just do the first Spider-Man, or did you include 2 and 3?
No, just Sam the first Spider-Man.
Just one movie. That's what we're doing.
Yeah. Which is interesting because I think the 17 Steps actually does fit better into the Star Wars trilogy than it does in this standalone movie, which is interesting because George Lucas made this with the hero's journey in mind. But like, certain steps like the atonement with the father, right? Like you hear that, and if you're a Star Wars fan, you know exactly what that moment is, right?
If you want to take a step further in that too, is the hero's journey about Anakin Skywalker or about Luke? So we could really step into that one if we wanted.
Bro. Actually, so I want to say, just getting structurally into the movie, I think, like, dude, first, the question could be turned to R2-D2, man. Like,
oh my gosh,
hero called to adventure.
That's so funny you say that. I have this. So like always, I have pages of notes. Near the top of all my notes, off to the side, I just put it out in the open, and then I like underlined it. R2 is the true hero.
100%. I mean, the first thing that said to him is, "Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope."
Wow.
I mean, that said to R2-D2, even though it was, directed at Obi-Wan, but still.
100%. I mean, he's a little go-getter. But before we get into the opening credits and all that, should we go through the steps?
Hit him with the steps, Connor.
All right.
Step 1.
Step 1, call to adventure. Step 2, refusal of the call. Then we have supernatural aid, crossing the first threshold, belly of the whale, road of trials, meeting with the goddess, woman as temptress, atonement with the father, apotheosis, ultimate boon, refusal of the return, magic flight, rescue from without, crossing of the return threshold, master of 2 worlds, and freedom to live. That's it, baby. That's it. It's a little bittersweet for me to do the last of the hero's journey because it's been really fun breaking down movies this way. So I'm excited to get into this, and also a little sad. But that being said, we might do hero's journey again someday. We'll see.
All to be talked about at the end of the episode when we finally spin the unnamed spinny thing of categories.
The
not trademarked movie roulette.
Generic movie roulette that we are legally allowed to use.
Legally distinct movie roulette. I do want to say for the opening crawl thing, it is the thing that they tell you not to do in any screenwriting class, is just like so much exposition, just like up top. But
everyone loves it.
The exception proves the rule.
Yeah, it's almost, to me, it's almost like your grandpa's like take a seat on my knee. I'm gonna tell you about what's going on in the galaxy far, far away. And
then just a big context, and then reads you 3 paragraphs.
Yeah, I mean, my first note is that this has got to be one of the best scores of all time, right? The
Yes.
Shout out
Yes.
to
John
John Williams.
Williams. Oh my God. And like, like we've all said, we've seen this movie so many times. But like I even noticed it so much more. It's been a while since I've seen it again, and like listening to the music, just the amount of medleys he's constantly like spinning, all the little themes that he's introducing and then like doing spins on, or like, elevating and pushing forward. It is just like I was wondering through the whole movie, what is this movie without this score? Like, it's hard to
Totally.
imagine, right? Like, what is
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Star
Yeah.
Wars without the John Williams score?
Well, I mean, the
It's
score
so
too at the
integral to
beginning is
it.
probably what makes that crawl work the way it does too. Like you don't have
Yes.
the impact of what
Yes.
that says without the music
Absolutely.
coming through.
It's
I have
so
a
good.
note. It says the score is doing the most from the beginning. And I, like you, Connor, I do really think I think that you have been mentioning a lot of the musical elements, which has been making me pay more and more attention to it. And for this movie, it was like, wow, how have I never noticed this? It's so hard to ignore. It is so beautifully fucking done. There's so much like drama. It's just like feels like I'm like getting in the place. Like and I think it is also tapping into that nostalgia of like Star Wars is in my
Yeah.
DNA because I'm
Yeah.
born of a certain time, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing with music is it's like a memory in multiple ways. Or like, when you smell something and you just suddenly are like have this really random memory. Like music does that, but it connects you with the emotions of excitement. And so for something like Star Wars, this music's connecting you with the emotions of excitement from when you were a kid seeing this, right? And
Yeah.
it's like so hard to I don't know, not just get swept away.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a 3-level thing going on here with the expository text, the score, and the first shot. And that is a sense of scale. This is not just a simple like this is a big story. This is an epic story. This is a story that requires like reading 3 paragraphs before you go into it, having music swell you into this state of like what the fuck's
Yeah.
about to happen, and then the first shot of the fucking ship
Yeah.
over, and then
Yeah,
the
I
big
mean,
I love
over a
that
planet
it
too.
just-
So it's just that,
Yes.
and then the
Ugh,
ship
it looks
passes.
so good.
And I think that's how most
it-
of the scenes in like all these movies, like it's just such a classic. Like you start a scene
Mhm.
from space, and then you drop into the part of the action that's happening, which I always thought was
Yeah, and I love that like going from the title crawl, it just does a like pan down
Yeah.
on the camera, right? It's like no, you were already about to be in this scene, like it's just so flawless. I mean, right from the jump, it just looks so freaking good, dude. It's crazy, like for 1970s, and like part of me sad that like I don't know what the original really looks like. Like I've seen that once maybe years and years ago, and it's like I don't know what was improved and what wasn't. So I wish I was more knowledgeable about that. But just like man, as soon as you see those ships rolling by, the planet looks so good. It just like it looks amazing.
I was reading about a little bit about this actually, and one
Oh,
of the
excellent.
things that they say is that so there are the obvious things that you are able to tell when you're watching the remasters now, where you're like, this is
The
obviously
super
CGI.
heavy
Yeah, those
CGI.
are
Yeah, I would say
The
that's the
worst.
stuff that holds up the least, right?
That's
Yeah,
the
it's so
bummer.
funny.
That's the big bummer.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so what they talk about, there are little things that they did do that really did improve the overall quality. Where I think they were talking about like how you can see like corners of like cutouts and like overlays that are used to create certain like effects with like the film, right? That they clean those little things up to make it look cleaner.
Yeah,
Probably things
yeah.
that would like still be like manageable for sure.
Right.
And especially to like maybe someone who isn't like looking out for that, but that was one of the things that I read that I thought was interesting with watching this sort of like cleaned up versions, quote unquote.
Yeah, and I think what made it, I'm sorry if it's repeating something that you had said already, but the one thing that really made it continue to like stand the test of time was that most of these were like practical effects that they made into two. Like a lot of it was, I've read a bit about the animation for these two, and a lot of it was like canvas with certain just like little holes and areas just so they could insert parts of the different action into whatever was happening onto the screen.
Yeah,
But it was, sorry.
That and the miniatures, right? Like
Yeah.
all the miniature and the costume design. Oh my god,
The
dude!
production design is amazing in this film.
All
Like
of the
it's
set design. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that was something that really struck me. The whole film is just look at all these weird freaking freaks everywhere, dude.
Yeah.
There's so much weird, cool stuff that's just like so immersive.
the
Yeah.
look is the big sell, honestly. The look is really what I think. I think there are that is I think one of the strongest parts of it, and why it has like stood the test of time for so long is this sort of like allure of this world that is slightly familiar but also so strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout
Yeah,
out to
I love it.
Morocco, dude. Or Tunisia?
Wait, what?
Tunisia.
Is that where they filmed?
Tunisia.
Is
Yeah, Tunisia.
Tatooine?
Yeah, you can definitely still visit some of the sets that have been left there. I don't know if anybody maintains them or not, but I've seen some people post about being able to go out there and check them out.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah, so many reasons why these movies rock.
They really, really do. I love just how much tension the movie starts with right from the start, right? Like, and we've talked about this. I think this has come up on every single one, right? It never starts with the first step of the hero's journey, at least so far, right? We haven't seen a call to adventure. So that's something I'm like very interested to keep my eye out for when we start getting into the other categories. I'm definitely going to be like, do any of these movies just start, boom, call to adventure? But love it. I mean, right from the start to the way the framing of the little rebel ship and the massive Imperial Star Destroyer, right?
Yeah.
Like just showing you right from the beginning just how overwhelming the force of the Empire is and
Yeah.
how unprepared the rebels are for this.
It's great visual metaphor.
Yeah.
I also,
Totally.
dude, when they do board the ship and you see Darth Vader for the first time, I had the thought, this is the first time I thought it. I was like, his helmet is so fucking big, dude. He's like such a large person, and he's got like a big old dome, dude.
Yeah, well, I think the creators of Spaceballs
Yeah.
also agreed with you there.
did.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Darth
Yeah, that's
helmet.
right. I
You
I
went
do
over
also
my helmet. Sorry.
immediately fucking C3PO and R2D2, and you can only understand what C3PO is saying the whole time. Such an
Yeah.
interesting but super fun choice to have
Yeah.
that be part of their sort of game as
Yeah.
some of the like comedic relief throughout the movie.
Yeah, and just they do such a good job of personifying R2D2. Just the little like inflections of his beeps.
Yeah.
He sounds sad sometimes. He sounds excited. Like he sounds scared. Yeah, all of that is so good. Like kudos to whoever designed all that because it's amazing.
I have a note about the sound designer. His name is Ben Burt. I think that the sound design in this whole movie is really well done. The movements of the droids, the sounds the droids make, the blasters, the like ambient sound, the sound of the aliens, the alien languages, all
Yeah.
that shit is amazing.
Yeah, I definitely have notes for a bunch of that throughout the movie.
The Gonk droid, you know.
Gonk droid?
Gonk.
Which one is
It's literally like I think you first see it in the Sandcrawler with the Jawas. But it's just like
The trash can
it's
one?
just the trash can. It goes wrong.
Oh, with two legs. Yeah.
Oh.
That's so great.
It's fucking funny.
Good choice.
I love that Vader comes in with his hands on his hips, all business too.
I didn't notice that. That's
I
so
didn't
funny.
notice that at all.
Yeah.
Does he?
Where I
That's
think he
so
walks
funny.
in and then he like puts his hands on his hips and like looks around and like, takes in the scene.
Oh, you know,
Um,
also fucking at one point, during this opening part, first of all, James Earl Jones, amazing voice.
Yeah.
We've all probably heard the stories about how David Prowse would like, his voice just didn't match like the sort of like gravitas that they wanted, and I ultimately do think it was an awesome choice to have him do the voice. I also like along the whole lines of C3PO and R2D2. They're fucking funny, dude. And he fucking one point C3PO in this opening scene, he responds to R2D2, and he says something like, "Don't call me what'd you call me, a mindless philosopher?" And I was like, "What the fuck?" Never had thought about that line. This is so fucking good.
Gosh, yeah, there was a couple really good little jokes, like little what would you call it?
Quips, I
C-3PO calls
guess.
him something. Yeah, little quips.
Yeah.
Yeah, he calls him like a grease bucket or
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that.
Just like
They
So
gotta
giving
get
funny.
back
giving
and
George
forth.
life was a very good choice.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I mean, it conjures a lot of questions when you think about the setting and so many things. But yes, good choice overall.
Yeah. Yeah, and then bringing this back to the beginning not being the call to adventure, I think scenes like this, especially, I think it's does a good job of setting up the stakes of what setting up stakes for the environment for the hero. Like you don't know who he is, but you
Yeah.
know this is the world that he's stepping into, and he has absolutely no idea. So I
Yeah,
think it
and
makes that call to action that comes eventually a lot more powerful.
that's a great point, actually, because I mentioned this in our Finding Nemo episode that I feel like the way I've like kind of figured out how to approach the hero's journey when analyzing a movie is figuring out one of the last steps first, which is the master of two worlds.
Mhm.
What is the hero becoming a master of two worlds of? And it took me like I was thinking about it for a while, and I think it's kind of a classic known and unknown, right? By the end, Luke is a master of the known and the unknown. And so, like you said, yes, setting up the unknown from the start, right? This is the danger, the scary war, the rebellion, and all that.
Yeah, and I mean, often the end
Absolutely.
too of the hero's journey is kind of going back to where you're beginning. Like you're continuing the journey into more of the unknown. So you,
Totally.
as especially as these movies progress, like you learn a little more, but you still have, even as your unknown becomes more known, then you still step into greater unknowns too.
Absolutely. Yeah. My next note is again, I was talking about the medleys John Williams weaves in this, and the first time we see Leia, you get a little bit of her theme mixed in with the Force theme, and it's just beautiful. The Force theme is my favorite. For those who don't recall which one that is, we'll get to this scene, but it is the scene where Luke is staring or looking out at the two setting suns.
God, what
Just
perfection that scene
it's
is.
so beautiful. Yeah,
Can't
we'll
wait
we'll
to
get to that one, but it's perfect. Yeah, it's so good. And Leia's theme's great too, but just like that was something I noticed more than any other time this time was the use of the themes being interwoven into each other. And very effectively and like compositionally extremely impressive, like that they're all weaving together
Yeah.
so seamlessly and beautifully and like in key with each other. It's just so good. So good.
I love that so much. Like such a cool way to approach this sort of like composition. I did have this thought while I was watching this part, and I was like, "Oh, look at me! I'm busting the story," because I was just like, "Wow, dude, they just happen to be over Tatooine, where his son and her brother are, and
True.
Yeah, and
like
none
they're
of them have
dropping
any
the
idea who
droids
they are
off
to
there.
each other, you know?
But what I realized is that she's trying to get to Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan is probably on that planet because he's looking after Luke. So it actually kind of makes sense.
Oh,
It
I
is
never
still
really pieced that
wild
together.
that
Yeah, well,
he-
I mean, from one angle, yeah, I think that does totally explain it. My thought is just like destiny, the Force bringing these things together, right? Like there is a lot of that in this movie as well, I think.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. It's still wild, Luke ends up finding R2D2 and C3PO, but it's fun to get there, and that's why it works, because it's fun and it's well done. Fucking sick
100%.
shit.
The sickest of
100%.
shit, honestly.
Yeah, dude, this shit is sick. The Star Wars shit, dude, I'm like wildly kind of a big fan. I think it could hold up for a long time. They could be making content out of this for
Wow.
decades. Don't you think?
Controversial. I don't know. I think they might spread it a little thin if they do more than these 3 original movies, but that's a
Yeah, it'd be
question for another day.
who knows what it would look like if they made, 6 or even 9 and then like 4 TV shows too. That'd be insane.
Yeah, that's too much. Or like
Yeah,
1,000 books spin-offs. Yeah, I don't know.
But just as a question, does that make sense that like well, I mean, we can talk about it a little bit more later because of when they first interact with each other. I had some thoughts about Obi-Wan and Luke having known each other, and yeah, him kind of like maybe
Yeah.
looking over him.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have anything else about the opening sequence. I go next to Tatooine. Do you guys have anything else?
No, I mean my first thought though is like sick shots.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
these shots that are more in like a natural setting, right? That like not necessarily like on but like the shots of the like landscape that are done here are really sick again at sort of delivering a sense of scale. Like
Totally.
those long shots of the droids, wandering through the fucking desert. They're
Yeah.
they evocative. You
Yeah.
immediately see those and you feel almost lonely, lost.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
And I think it like the scale also scales too, right? Because first you're in space, you're like, oh shit, there's this. You just said some random planet, and then you get to the planet, and the planet itself is also just vast, and Tatooine itself is vast and sort of barren. So like
Yeah.
you,
And then everything you do see that's alive or alien is so weird
Yeah.
and interesting, right? So it's just like a perfect contrast to this stark wasteland.
Yeah.
Um
I also have a note that C-3PO is constantly refusing the call.
yeah. Yeah, it's so funny.
frequently,
Multiple times throughout this movie, I was like, man, all of these, like, I guess what I really appreciate is just how many arcs there are.
Yeah.
We talked about this with Spider-Man too, where it's really cool to see multiple arcs being set up. But yeah, between
And Finding
C-3PO,
Nemo. Finding Nemo as
yeah,
well.
yeah, for sure, yeah. C-3PO, Luke, Han Solo. I wouldn't necessarily say Leia has much of an arc. She's just kind of a badass the whole time. But yeah, cool to see all that being set up and pay off. Quick thought: it is kind of funny to think that if the Imperials just like weren't so greedy with their bullets, they could have just blown up the pod, leaving
hold your
the
fire.
rebel
There's
ship.
no life forms in
Yeah.
there. It's like okay,
Yeah, I wonder how much that cost them. Yeah, it's like they could have won the war against the rebellion basically with just that one
This
bullet.
this was another example of a time where I was like, "Oh, I've undone the plot," and I was like, not really, but I was like, kind of like, okay, yeah, that's silly, but then very quickly, Vader is like, "Oh no, the droids are like she probably put the plans like
Yeah.
in the fucking pod." So there is this cat and mouse game that's set up between the Empire and the droids, and I think that if that's the purpose it ends up fulfilling, then I'm okay with it because
Yeah.
I do feel like it is a fun game to immediately set up for the audience to track.
Totally. And on that note, I noticed on this watch, and I really appreciated that Vader's a smart dude, and he's constantly like seeing through people's like rouses and like coming up with these little plans. And that's we'll get to this more. But this is something I also forget is this is a smart script. They're constantly doing little tricks and schemes, and things are unwinding in a very clever way.
yeah.
And that's something I just like had forgotten about or just, never really took note of. But yeah.
Yeah, I
awesome.
mean, Vader is supposed to be a general too, right? So like he has to have a mind for where things might go and how they play out. So in the end, like yeah, he should be a smart guy. And a lot of the ways to like he's just kind of like right, he's the evil mastermind in a lot of ways. Well, at least the what I mean, even at the beginning, right? Like this is also plays to a different thing, but it's like, oh, who's holding Vader's leash? Sort of thing, right? And
Right.
so that's
Yeah.
it's Grand Moff Tarkin in the first one, but like then we learn who actually is. But like as smart as Vader is, right? Like who's the guy he's the general for? And you
He's
just like don't
definitely
know
like
that.
the BBEG, to
Yeah.
make a little D&D ref.
Totally.
He's just like my favorite BBEG.
Yeah.
Like I was just telling
he's
you,
awesome.
he's pretty cool.
He's awesome.
Like he's just this ruthless evil villain dude who turns out is not necessarily
Well, he looks
right. He just looks cool and scary, right? Like back to the Hidden Fortress references, like it's supposed to be sort of like the samurai mask type thing.
Yeah, that's right. Totally. I forgot about that.
But yeah, I was telling Connor anyway, like my my love affair with Darth Vader has been huge. Like my little symbol on Discord here is Darth Vader. My desktop backgrounds have been Darth Vader most of my life, and he's just a cool guy, as evil as he might be,
Yeah, what's amazing
Or
is
is.
that It's insane to say this at this point in my journey with the Star Wars franchise, but after this movie, I liked Vader more than I did before
Yeah.
watching it again, which is crazy. Like, you know, I
Yeah.
already have such reverence for that character, but I'm like, oh wow, man. Because yeah, he looks awesome, he's really smart, and he's extremely powerful and mysterious. Why is he so powerful and like everything? Like it's just so
Yeah,
well
more
done.
machine.
And I
Noggin,
think when
man.
you're a kid, for a kid, it's very easy to be like, scary man is
Yeah.
scary, right? But like,
Yeah.
yeah, watching it being older now and seeing that, yeah, he's actually like really kind of seeing through like the way that they're trying to like sort of, you know, maybe like the maneuvering, the lies, or also like the thing
Yeah.
with the pod where he's immediately like, no, like that they probably ejected that on purpose to get the plans onto the fucking planet, go after them.
Right. Totally. Yeah, I mean it works for moving the plot along and it works to set him up as a villain, so it's really good.
And sets up stakes. I mean, he's on their tail.
Mhm.
Exactly. Yeah. C3PO really cracks me up at this part where he refuses to go the way R2 is going, even though neither of them know which way they're going. He's just being like really stubborn. So it's really funny that like that he doesn't even know why he doesn't want to go that way. He just doesn't want to go wherever R2 is going. And then when he gets lost, he's like, he tricked me into going this way.
Just refuses to have any sort of accountability for his actions.
Yeah.
There's part of me that is like, dude, like I don't know, like we don't know what R2D2 is saying, right? Like I feel like he seems pretty stubborn as well. Like, you know, I think it's a
True.
moment where C3PO wants to kind of like assert his individuality. But ultimately, if this was a story about the two of them, we could talk about how how it seems like there's a codependent
Just-
relationship there, you know?
Yeah, just two sassy bitches trying to make it through the galaxy, you know?
It's so true. So true.
The next note I have is the little noises the Jawas make.
Danny!
I freaking love these little guys, man. They're so goofy. Well, and they're also like the first shot of them is kind of creepy, right? Like the glowing eyes and
Yeah.
the cloak behind the rock. You know, again, you're brushing up against the unknown here.
Yeah, I mean, it's the scene where they zap R2D2, right? Where he's just going through the little cavern or whatever.
So, Eric, you know more about the Star Wars universe than I do. Is it known what these things are? Like, what's under that cloak?
Ooh, that I don't know. They're just kind of always been little scavengers, right? So they get stuff
Yeah.
onto their thing, pick it apart for parts, and then sell whatever they find.
That
but-
seems rude to ask, Connor. That seems really rude to ask.
honestly, Connor, that's a little racist.
Hey, man, I love Jawas.
Jawas,
Jawa stan.
Jawas are your you have friends who are Jawas? Is that what you're saying?
I worked with one for a couple months.
Great guy.
They have like nocturnal marsupial eyes almost, dude. Like they're fucking they are wild. Again, another great example of like really good costumes
Yeah.
in this stuff.
Yeah.
And then I think when we see all of another great production design example is all the droids.
Yes.
Once we're in that with the
Yes.
sand crawler.
Yes, I wrote
That's
all
what's
the
called, right?
fun.
I think it's called
Sandcrawler?
Yeah, I
Sandcrawler,
think that's
yeah.
right. That's yeah, whatever. It's just all the fun little robots, man. And this is just a recurring thing throughout the whole movie. Is just the diversity amongst all of the designs,
Yeah.
man. Like they went so hard and just making so many weird things, man. It's crazy.
It implies a lot about the world.
Yeah.
That there's so many different designs for these droids, right? Because like it makes you think, oh, there's like must be like hundreds, thousands of like different manufacturers, right? That are working with different like specifications. It is this really like vast, diverse, again, scale, right? Like there's this vast scale of
Yeah.
the different kinds of droids that there are.
It just feels like a really lived-in world.
Yeah,
Like
well,
all the way through.
Even on top of that too, right? I think the whole, especially the idea of the people who live on planets like Tatooine and stuff, they like make their own droids. Like they get scrap from whatever they find and then end up having a droid. I mean, like even the origin of C-3PO is just Anakin Skywalker was like, "Hey, I got a bunch of random stuff from all these pilots that come by, and here's this droid that I made."
That's a
So
good point. Yeah. So it was Anakin who made him such a sassy bitch.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Put his
That's
own
true.
personality into him. Made
Yeah,
him,
I guess he
made him
did.
British for some reason.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so like not only like thousands of manufacturers of droids, but also like just people who end up making their own stuff too. Like survivalists
totally.
out here in this.
And it looks like that. Like in terms of just I think, and I'm not up to date on all the newest Star Wars stuff, but I feel like they've lost a little bit of that kind of grungy vibe of like this is some like run down stuff too. Like I feel like my impression of new Star Wars is a lot more like shiny and sparkly designs and stuff, and I feel like everything here feels like kind of gritty and used and like I just love
I
that.
would say a bit of it is. There's some, I would say to some degree, man, it's hard to really say because I think it looks nicer because our equipment is better, so it kind of all looks a little bit more polished, I think. But also like
Yeah, I
shows
would
like
say like The Mandalorian. I think that feels like a lived-in
Cool.
universe.
I haven't
to
seen
me
it,
when
yeah,
I
and then
watch
like
that show.
Andor, which is probably my favorite thing that they've done too, is like a story about just the rebels without the force powers, who are like the real coalition of people that are
Oh, cool. Yeah,
building
I've been
this.
meaning to
Yeah,
watch
and
that.
I
like
haven't
that
seen that
also
one
feels
either.
really grimy and dirty. And if you haven't watched Rogue One, I highly recommend because that
I
one's
have seen
probably-
Rogue One.
Yeah, and
I
that
have
one
seen Rogue
also
One.
feels really like, damn, this is like grit, right? There's a lot of that too. What highlights the things that even the rebels have to do things that they're not proud of, And
Right.
so
I do want to say this because I mean we're fucking talking about Star Wars, so I've always wanted a TV show, like a gritty crime show, like set in like the lower
Like Coruscant.
levels. Yeah, of
Yeah.
Coruscant.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'd be super
Like,
into that.
like that.
Me
It's
too.
too like
That would be
Breaking
so
Bad,
sick,
but
right? Like-
Coruscant.
What's the drug in Death Sticks?
They
Is
have
that the
Death
Star
Sticks.
Wars?
Yeah, that's one of
Yeah.
them. You don't
Yeah,
want to
it's
sell me
just
Death
That's their
Sticks.
cigarettes.
You'll
Yeah,
go
he gets
home,
some sort of-
rethink your life.
Yeah, he gets into making death sticks to pay for his some weird space disease sickness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm into it. My next note is that the CGI added in holds up the least. Is referring to
Yeah,
the
for sure.
the stormtroopers riding the creature around the desert. I
was-
mean, it's like a cool looking creature, but it's
It
just
was
like
just
it's
such
so
a weird
clearly...
choice. Like I don't know
Yeah.
who looked at that, even as like a remaster or whatever. And was like, that looks fine, right? There's even one scene where just like one of the big creatures walks in front of the camera and blocks the scene,
Right.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
what does that add to this? Like you don't even see the beast.
Yeah.
It just was
Yeah.
weird. But
I mean, I think back then it did look amazing because CGI was so new, So it was like, I'm a big Final Fantasy VII fan, right? Like those little pixel like toaster hands graphics just blew your mind when it was brand new and stuff. So I think just like we've talked about this a little bit on some of the other episodes, just new technology, people playing with the toys.
yeah. It just, I don't know. I don't think
but
that those
still.
adaptations in particular, I think they came out
Yeah.
relatively recently too, like after like the new episodes 1, 2, and 3 came out.
I think before it was I think you said
I
it
think
90s,
97.
yeah, 97.
97 is when they did
Oh, but
those.
that didn't include the weird CGI monsters that came out. And
I think it did.
I'm not sure.
Really?
I don't think
I think
that
it
it
did.
did. I think the ones that you're referring to are the Lucas remasters that came out on DVD, right? And that's the ones they show on TV now, where they have like
I don't
the
know.
scene with Jabba the Hutt, where Han Solo talks to him
Yeah.
and stuff like that. That didn't come into play until later. Like that was a 2000s thing.
That might be true.
But like the monster
We'll have to-
walking in
we'll
front
have
of the
to do our
camera was like
research.
the
Yeah.
weird CGI insert that was way too new for 97. I think that wouldn't have been
Okay.
added then.
I'm not sure. Not sure here.
But yeah, it's just the ones
I
that they
seem to
stream-
remember it like okay, like the Return of the Jedi, the singing in the palace. Like I remember having that on VHS. Unless this is a false memory, but like I feel like this stuff was in there. But they might have touched it up again and added more.
As
but
a special to this episode, I do have
There's
them
the
right there. I can put it into a
2004.
VCR that's in the living
That's
room.
awesome.
I
Oh, 2004.
there is a Wikipedia article called "Changes in Star Wars Re-releases," and what it looks like. There's a little timeline here. There is the special edition, featured the first significant changes, and doesn't have the specific notes about what was changed. But then 2004 was when the original trilogy was released on DVD, and there were further significant alterations.
Pray I do not alter it further.
Good one.
So yeah, I think I definitely remember mostly seeing the 97 ones, and
Yeah, because all I had was
Yeah,
the VHS stuff, and this looks like home to me. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. We'll let the audience debate.
no, there
below.
are we are watching. We did probably watch the one that was after 2004.
Yeah.
So I think there
for
is
sure.
some further stuff for sure. Like, and I think that now that I'm thinking about it, I'm feeling. I mean, we don't have to get in the weeds about it. Anyway, let's
I have
continue.
many feelings about
The
the
hero's
past
journey.
two, so we can skip
Yeah,
out
dude,
on all of
I
those
could-
things.
Yeah, we could talk about this for so
I
fucking
know.
long. But
I know. We meet Luke.
yes,
We get
the music.
Yeah, he has I forgot that the main Star Wars theme is also Luke's theme. I think it's
Yeah.
even called Luke's
Yeah.
theme. And yeah, it's just great, dude. It's just so fun. John Williams is just. Oh yeah, I even wrote it. Williams writing a story with the music.
Yeah.
Like he really is telling his
Absolutely.
own story while the movie's going on. I just
Is
love
the
it so
hero
much.
in this movie not just John Williams for the score he created? The
Yeah.
journey that he goes through
I-
writing the score, is that really what we're talking
Yeah.
about here?
For real.
I also like that for the way that it's shot. It feels very sort of casual when you see him like from afar emerging from the house. But then when we get the closer shot, it is very sort of like dramatic. That just this like great setup where you hear her go Luke, and he like turns,
Mhm.
and we set up that's his name, and like that's when the music swells, right? And we get his theme there, and
Yeah.
fuck, dude, it's a beautiful moment. It's like, okay, dude, this is our friggin' hero as told to us by the way that it's being shot, the way the music is working.
Yeah.
It is that thing where there's this synthesis of all these different elements coming together perfectly to tell this story.
Yeah,
right?
and then we
Now
find
that's
out.
what I call filmmaking.
Yeah, and
Hell
then we
yeah,
find out all he
baby.
wants to do is go to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters. You know?
He's really fucking whiny, dude.
Yeah. When you stepped
He's
away for a
really
second,
whiny.
Eric and I were talking about just how whiny he is, man.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's the hero of our story here, but the older I've gotten, the more I watch these movies, the more I fucking hate Luke so much. I'm just like, dog, what? Jesus Christ,
Yeah,
get it together, man.
He is whiny, and it is grating, especially that line. I was gonna go to Tashi and my power converters. But
Waste time with your friends later.
but what I like about this is I like a flawed hero, and I think this is a coming of age story in a lot of ways. And
Yeah, absolutely.
like very quickly they set him up as kind of a kid. He's a child. Like there's a scene coming up
Yeah.
a little bit soon where he's literally playing with a toy spaceship. And it's like, yeah, he's still
Oh,
a
that's
kid,
right.
man.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So
Dude, Uncle Owen's a real fucking hard ass too, dude. He fucking I love to when he fucking goes to start talking to C-3PO, and he's just like trying to say, like, can you like do what I need you to do with the vaporizers or whatever?
Right.
And he's like, oh, blah blah blah, and he says, shut up. And he says, shutting up, sir.
Shut the fuck
Yeah,
up. Dude,
I love how
seriously.
everyone just is so dismissive of the droids. Like they're just like, we
Yeah.
do not care about you at all. On that same note, I actually wrote that line down because something I really appreciate is just how much like nerdy technical babble there is
Yeah.
throughout the whole movie. He says, "Do
Yeah,
you speak the
absolutely.
binary language of moisture evaporators?" And it's like,
Yeah.
what
Fluent
does-
over
what
6
does
million
that
parts of
mean,
communication.
bro?
Not much
And you
different.
speak Bocce, which is the language spoken by balls.
But just like in terms of all these things we're talking about, in terms of this feeling like a lived-in world, like all this technical babble really adds to that. I
Right.
think.
Also, the bad motivator, which
Not a
ultimately
bad motivator.
pairs R2D2 with back with C3PO and Luke, right? And I wrote down, this is another little red versus blue situation, similar to in the Matrix. Where they're gonna take the red R2 unit, but it fucking has a bad motivator. Which, dude, I could not relate to anything more in this world, dude, than having a bad motivator, dude. Sometimes I just want to stay in
Someone
bed
swap
all
me out,
day,
please.
dude.
That'd be real cool.
Poor guy, dude. He's depressed, dude.
Yeah, he's on
Yeah,
a
well,
ship. What is it? The Family Guy. It's like, I'm on a planet with 2 sons and no women. What do you want me to do?
yeah. Luke is bummed out. Like right from the start, he wants to go play with his friends or do something with his buddies, and he gets shut down. He has this line when he's taking the droids away. Just like sounds so bummed out. Like, okay, let's go. Like he's just like his heart is somewhere else, right?
Well,
And,
yeah. I mean, I think the yearning
Yeah.
to do something is in Luke the whole time, and we get that when
Yeah.
he's he tells Uncle Owen, right? He's like, "Oh, I want to go join the cadets or whatever it was, so he can go be part of the resistance." And he goes like, "Oh, I need you for one more season, right?" So like
yeah,
he's yearning
totally.
to do something, right? And that's just kind of like
Yeah,
that's just like I need to get
really
the
just
hell out of
shoving
here.
him
And
the
then
fuck
yeah,
down.
Uncle Owen's like, "Fuck you, kid."
Well, yeah, he has a great line that I wrote down. C3PO asks him something like, "Where are we?" Like what planet we're on. And Luke says to him, "If there's a bright center of the universe, this is the planet it's farthest from." And I'm like,
yeah,
wow.
I was trying to listen in and see, do they ever say the name Tatooine in this movie? I didn't notice if they did. But I did think it was interesting that he says that in the very beginning.
Interesting.
In that moment too, when he's when they're first sort of like chatting, right, and we're kind of getting a little peek into what Luke's sort of motivations are further. He C3PO calls him Sir Luke, which is a little foreshadowing.
Oh,
It's like, just Luke is fine. Okay, Sir Luke.
Wow, that's a nice little pickup. Yeah, so like you were saying, he wants to leave the farm.
Yeah, and I
There's
think
also
part
a
of him
little
leaving
bit.
too was that his friends had already gone and joined, and he kind of got left
Yeah.
behind. So there's not a whole lot.
He wants to
for
go
him
to the
do.
academy, which is
Yeah.
interesting
Academy, there
because
we go,
it's
yeah.
is it Space Flight Academy? Because we do see Biggs later, which
Yeah.
was his buddy from Tatooine,
But
would
and
it
he's
be
a
like
pilot
an
now.
It
An
surely
Imperial-
was some sort of academy. Yeah, we don't know if it was
Yeah.
an Imperial one or the Rebels, because how long ago
Also-
did Biggs leave? Or did he go straight to a Rebel training place? And who conducts these trainings? We have no idea.
I do think before this though is when he sees the message, because I do think R2D2 is a little fucking con artist, dude.
Yeah,
He's like,
Yes.
"Oh, I'll show you the whole
Yes.
message if you take off the restraining bolt." And then Luke's
Yes.
like, "Okay." And then he's like, "What message?"
Yeah.
He's like, there was nothing
Gaslighting
playing.
Luke, dude.
What do you mean?
I love
what
that.
message?
Well, yeah, that was like that point I was making earlier about just how there's a lot of little cunning, like people are constantly trying to trick each other in this in little like fun cunning ways that moves the plot forward in a fun way, and
Yeah.
I really like all that. That's really great.
Wookiee
But yeah,
prisoner
again,
trick is a meme for a reason, dude.
R2 is the true hero. I also like in that scene that Luke is desperate to hear about the battles because C3PO says he was on a rebel
Yeah.
ship or something like that, and he's like,
Have you seen many
"Oh,
battles?
like, yeah, he's so hyped about it, right? Like, yeah, again, that yearning for the unknown.
Yeah.
And
But I mean, it's also like you said, he's also a kid, right? So the idea of like action and all these things is very appealing
Yeah.
to him. So
totally
whatever his motivation is, whether it's a good motivator or a bad one,
totally.
he still wants to get out of there. Sorry, that was a bad motivator reference.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it is. We do like these scenes are doing a great job of sort of like setting up his wants, his desires, and
Mhm.
sort of how he's plotted out for himself, how he wants to go about it, and what is holding him back at this point, which is his family and his commitment to his family. Because although we do see him protest, he does accept ultimately what his uncle says to him, and as we will see later on, he does have this resistance when he is offered the
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah, he has loyalty to his family and, making sure they're taken care of and all that. So he's also responsible, even if he is a whiny little boy about it.
Mhm.
Um, I have Help Me Obi-Wan Kenobi as Call to Adventure.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
that
I mean, I
that
think
is-
there is that, sure, because I guess that's what gets him out to go find Obi-Wan, even if it's also to find R2. But I think there's a more direct call to adventure when he plays it for Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he literally says, "You're
Yeah.
gonna come with me and train to
Yeah.
be a Jedi."
And that
Right.
that is later on, and that is when he refuses and he says, "I can't go. I have to help Owen and Aunt Beru."
Yeah, that's a good point. That could be definitely more refusal.
No, it's both.
than
Well, it's
first,
both.
but I
is
guess
It's
it could
definitely
be a
both,
little
yeah.
bit of both.
I do think that him listening to the message is the first sort of the beginning of the call to adventure.
Yeah,
Right.
If
that's a
you
good
wanna say
point.
that. Like it is
Yeah,
because
and-
then this whole sort of next sequence, we have this very beautiful moment with him looking at the like dual sunset, like yearning for more, and then we have the immediate sort of setup of like he ran away. And then he's like, okay, fuck, we're going to have to go get him, right? So, like, the continuation
Yep.
of that sort of call to adventure.
Yeah.
Like, we almost,
Yeah.
like I said, we have the visual sort of metaphor for that sort of
Right.
moment in that dual sunset with the
Oh,
fucking
man.
Force theme playing
The
so
dual
fucking
setting
nicely.
suns, the way because we've like I said, it was the Force theme was foreshadowed with Leia, but here it comes in with the full orchestra, and it's just
I'm
so
getting chills just
gorgeous.
thinking about it. It's
I
so
know. I
good.
mean, Alfredo and I said this to each other a while back. Like, not just one of the best scenes in the movie, like one of the best scenes in the whole franchise. Like, it's just
thinking
so
cinema
evocative.
in general. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
almost
Yeah, it's
like I
it's
love
amazing,
it.
yeah.
And this is just me loving it too so much. But like, I want to paint part of that scene in my living room just to have it forever.
It
Just
made
me-
the
it
two
made me
cents and even
tear
the
up.
homestead out there. Yeah,
Made
and I
me
mean,
fucking tear up watching that, dude. Like the
Yeah.
music is just it just plays on my heart so much, and that
same.
wanting more, wanting to like dive into the unknown as well, which is another great sort of like tie back to the hero's
yeah,
journey.
it's like where's my call to adventure? Let's do it. Like, let's just go right now.
Absolutely.
And the next scene, he's told, dude, R2D2 ran away. He's like, fuck,
Yeah.
let's go find
Yeah.
him, dude.
Real quick, just the smallest little nitpick. Is it just me, or is his aunt's denim jacket extremely out
Oh,
of place?
it is,
in
but
the
it's
rest of the costume
perfect.
design.
It's like, where
Oh,
did
I
you
did
hell you
not
find this
notice.
fabric, lady?
I
Because
did
his
not
uncle
notice.
looks like he's wearing some kind of unusual stuff. She just looks like she's wearing some 70s denim
Yeah.
jacket.
I didn't notice.
I also
did
noticed that
notice.
the next day she's wearing the exact same outfit. But they are both wearing the exact same outfit.
Oh, that's funny.
You got to picture
Yeah.
the closet is just like, I mean, so is Luke, right? Like, it's just like,
yeah,
It's just
every
like
just all
character in
denim
Star
jackets.
Wars
It's
is
desert
like-
chic, right? It's like thin linen clothing that you can
Yeah.
not be too hot in the fucking desert.
Bro,
yeah,
know,
that and
but-
denim jackets.
And denim jackets, of course.
I do think it's funny too when he goes off looking for R2 that he has C3PO drive initially. I had never noticed that, and it seems so weird to me.
Yeah, I thought that was weird too. Yeah, because he tells him to like floor it or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
he
Well, I mean,
does.
just
Yeah.
in general in this universe, right? The droids are the ones that fly most of the planes, right? Even like
Hmm.
a lot of the stuff when like Luke and Anakin both famously like to like fly on their own without assistance of the droid. That's like a thing that's sort of not unique necessarily, but it's like a thing that they both have liked to do. Right. So
Interesting.
like most
I had
things
forgotten
are
that
driven by
detail.
the droids.
That's great.
Like all the X-wings have the slot, the X-wings and whatever all have the little slot for the droid
Yeah.
at the end. So there would be
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Right.
spot on all the droids. Like
I didn't realize that their job was to fly the plane in that little slot.
yeah.
Well, you see
Like
R2
plane,
later
handle
on in the
navigation,
movie
Yeah.
repairing parts of the like ship
True,
as
yeah,
well.
he has multiple jobs. Yeah.
Yeah, he's basically like the ship's like hub, right? I don't know, like can
Yeah.
divert power to different places and stuff.
Right. Next thing I have is Obi-Wan's scream. What the heck? It's so
Oh yeah.
like this only comes up once in any of the Star Wars
To
I've seen.
scare away
This, like,
the Tusken Raiders.
this wild force scream or
Like a
whatever
fucking
it is.
elephant.
Our first introduction to Jedis is that they howl menacingly at these people, you know. And like, dude, I do love the sound design of the Tusken Raiders and the like,
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
like all those fucking sounds are
I
amazing.
know. Yeah,
you know?
everything looked so good that like at a certain point I just like stopped writing it down because it was just like, yeah, this all looks awesome.
Yeah,
But,
and you know they frighten easily, but they'll be back and in greater
Yeah.
numbers.
I have this
A
as
little-
a supernatural aid moment. With
Yeah,
with
good
Obi-Wan.
point.
I agree.
I had it a little later, but yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, multiple times. And just like for the people at home, as we've talked about in other episodes, like all of the steps of the hero's journey usually come up in multiple patterns or like multiple times, like especially the call to adventure and refusal of the call. Like, you know, going back to the Matrix as an example, it's like he gets the call to adventure to go to the party at the beginning, he refuses the call but then follows the white rabbit and then later gets another phone call at the office, you know. So it's like it's been pretty common through these 3 movies we've watched that especially these early steps happen multiple times. There's kind of this push and pull between the hero and the journey.
It's like
Yeah.
a protracted call to adventure, you know, like
Yeah.
it is like extended and some of these stages are stages, not like specific like markers, right? Like where it is
True.
like happening over the course of like several scenes that we're watching this, especially like something like the Road of Trials, right? You're not going to be
Right.
able to find one specific
Right.
moment that is
Totally.
the whole Road of Trials, but you can find a good sort of representation for that.
Totally, and that's a great example for that one because I don't think we even mentioned the Road of Trials in our Finding Nemo episode, and I think that's just because it's like so ingrained into the whole movie. The whole movie is
Yeah.
a Road of
Yeah.
Trials, and I think that's pretty common for the hero's journey. Versus like, you know, again in the Matrix, it was very clear like, all right, he is now like learning like how to Matrix.
It's a whole
you know,
montage.
and that would,
Yeah.
yeah.
Show me.
Connor
I
was-
know kung fu. Show me.
I know.
Connor was talking about how much he loves montages.
I do love montages.
Good
It's true.
montage. It's hard to beat, I will say.
Dude, Finding
But-
Nemo
Yeah.
had some good montages as well.
Oh yeah.
Oh, well,
Spider-
that one has the best one.
Spider-Man also.
Oh yeah. Obi-Wan should recognize R2 based on prequel lore, right?
Yes, I
That's
did.
a little like annoying nitpick I have, where it's
Yes.
just like, why? What do you mean? I don't remember ever
Yeah.
owning a droid. What are you talking about, brother?
Yeah, and I think the excuse is that like maybe he doesn't want to give away too much to Luke, but yeah, there's
Sure,
tons of
sure.
little things that because of the prequels
But
that were
then
made,
he tells him-
continuity was kind of broken. So
Then he
it's
tells
like,
him stuff about him and his dad. It's like it wouldn't be that hard to just acknowledge the droid, right? I do like. We got to say, Alec Guinness fucking killing it in this role.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
Also,
really good.
As a continuation of what I was saying before, Obi-Wan knows Luke's name without Luke introducing himself.
Yeah.
And Luke calls him
Yep.
Ben and almost like recognizes him. So again,
Uh-huh.
sort of like cementing this idea that I have presented that like, oh, they like he's probably there to take care of him and they have met before.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know we don't learn this until a much later movie, but I mean, even when R2 first brings up that he's like looking for Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's like, "Oh, I wonder if he means old Ben Kenobi," right? Which is again
Yeah.
a little silly, but like he clearly knows who Ben is from the very like
Yeah.
moment that we
Yeah.
meet R2. So
Yeah,
like
but
they
I-
have
It could be that he's heard of him, right? Like he's like
Sure.
because he is kind of presented as like, oh, he's this like that old wizard, you know,
this old
like kind of
hermit, yeah,
almost like a,
I like that he
larger
calls him a
than life-
wizard.
Yeah.
Almost like this like
a wizard that
all,
lives
like,
on the outskirts of town.
Everybody knows who Scary Gary is in the neighborhood. Like maybe Scary
Right.
Gary doesn't know who you are, but you know who Scary Gary is, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Next up, we have the introduction of the lightsaber, which, you know, man, talk about sound design, iconic sound design, just sounds so amazing, looks great.
I do want to really quickly say as well, there's some good foreshadowing as well when he says he's not dead, not yet, right? And that
Oh yeah.
because he's gonna
Not yet.
spoilers,
anyway.
he's gonna
Yeah.
die later, yeah. And then
What the fuck?
fucking line. And then he says, "Of course I know him. He's me." I love that shit.
Yeah, I like that line too.
Yeah, and then my favorite line that I use just way too often is like, "I haven't gone by the name of Obi-Wan since before you were born." Right? But just
Yeah.
every little thing is like, yes, I haven't heard that since before you were born. Just every little opportunity I get to use that line, I just
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah, and
I'm dumb, so I just can't help it, even if it's not funny anymore.
Well,
Yeah.
I love him just like being set up as he's so mysterious from the start, right?
Right,
He's the
absolutely.
old crazy wizard out in the desert, and now he's
Yeah.
setting up. Oh, I used to go by this different name, and then pretty quickly I used to know your father, and like blah blah blah. It's
Don't
setting
you
up a lot.
feel
He
like
just talks about the
So
Clone Wars
casually,
and all that.
yeah. So
Don't you feel
casually
like
brings up that thing too.
when they're talking about those things though, and then knowing how everything plays out, it feels like when you're watching it, there's sort of like a different implication of events to me, where like it doesn't feel like, oh, I came to this planet and rescued your father from being a slave. It seems like they like knew each other.
They were like
growing
colleagues.
up,
Mhm.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
and
Well, there
maybe
is that near the end. To jump ahead a bit, Vader does say to him before their fight, when we met, or last time I left you, I was the learner, but now I'm the
Yeah.
master.
Right,
or something
right,
along
for
those
sure.
lines, so.
But that could make it seem like he's his mentor, right? But like,
Yeah.
dude, then knowing what happened, it's like that's so wild
Yeah.
that that's how
Yeah,
you
you-
talk
you-
about it.
You kind of have to throw all the
Well, I
prequel
mean,
stuff
yeah.
and other stuff out the window,
No, I know,
Yeah.
but
To an
still,
extent.
like just having that context now, it
Yeah.
is like I'm like, oh, that's right. I felt like it was so different before they filled
Right.
in the blanks.
Well, yeah, and I think it's on
Yeah,
record.
I don't even know necessarily. I don't know if that necessarily feels that off, right? Because sure, they stumble upon this. I mean, to get into the prequels a little bit, I guess. Like, sure, they stumble onto the planet and they find him, but Obi-Wan's also really young when he's the Padawan of Qui-Gon Jinn, and they find him, right? And like Anakin is 9 years old, and that basically from that point forward, they kind of grow up together, right? So
But
then
there's
he's like, yes, he's
also
a close friend. He becomes like a brother to him. Right, so
There's
there's
the
a
part
large
with
chunk
Owen
of time.
where he does say the thing about like how your Uncle Owen never approved of him like coming off with me as well, which makes it seem
Right.
like, oh, Owen was there because Owen is Anakin's brother, and Owen is like, don't go off with that guy. And then when you watch the prequels, that's not what happens at
What
all.
happens.
Like he barely
Yeah.
knows Owen. Like
Well,
he
yeah.
doesn't grow up
it-
there. But
it,
this is
it's one-
insanely weedsy shit.
Well, Uncle
Right.
Owen is his mom's brother, so it is technically also his uncle. right?
Oh, I forgot that detail. Right.
Right, I can't
Um,
remember because
I don't think so.
Anyway,
I think the
something.
way they retroactively do it is that like Uncle Owen is like his step brother or like his
I think he's
like,
a stepdad.
stepdad or something like that.
Yeah,
Like, it's
because
the
I think
man-
I
his-
think Anakin's mom marries
marries.
Owen.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
stepdad.
Yeah, and,
to Darth Vader.
I just kind of I just like try not to think about it too much because there's so much stuff. Like I
Sure.
think they're even on record, even for this movie, within the context of the trilogy. I'm pretty sure they're on record saying that Darth Vader was not originally planned to be Luke's father, and Leia was not originally planned to be Luke's sister.
That definitely was not supposed to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you could
absolutely.
tell there's a
They
lot of
fucking-
romance
They
set
made
up.
out in Empire
Yeah.
Strikes Back. So
Yeah.
that's good.
So I have the refusal of the call right here. After Obi-Wan hears the message, and Luke says, "I'm not going to Alderaan."
Yeah.
And he's basically saying, yeah, he has to go back to the camp, or not the camp, back to his homestead and take care of the family and stuff. And
That's
he says, "I
also-
can't get involved."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also the point
can't
where
get
it's most
involved.
clearly the call to adventure is most like clearly stated by Obi-Wan,
Yeah.
right?
Come with me. Yeah. Does he tell him he's going to train him as a Jedi Knight in that scene?
Yeah, I think he says you must come with me to Alderaan and learn the ways of the Force or something
Yes.
like that.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and then he's just like, "Oh, wait, I know I wanted to leave, but fuck."
And then fucking Obi-Wan
Totally.
says to him, "You must do what you feel is right, of course."
Yeah, and still lets him make a choice.
Yeah.
And you do see the strong
Obi-Wan's
sense
great.
of responsibility and obligation as well. Like, I feel like we are sort of now starting to get like a better sort of idea of who Luke is as like a person, right? He's not just some whiny teenager, right? There is that strong familial obligation.
Yeah.
Totally.
And then I think also too, like the explanation of the Force in that scene going past refusal is another like very direct supernatural aid that we're gonna see
Totally.
continuing forward after that too, right?
Yeah. I love how vague the Force is described in these original movies.
Mm-hmm. It makes it cooler.
just
I
like-
really enjoy
Yeah.
that presence more because it kind of sucks you
Yeah.
in into what this might be, and like
Right.
it's just
and it
a
just
feeling
feels
that
like
you do
something
have to have.
unknown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To reduce
And
it
mysterious.
to, oh yeah, these microorganisms are in control of all this, just kind of really like, I don't know, made it a lot less
Takes
cool.
the magic out of it
Yeah.
a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. But
For
you
sure.
know, that's not for this movie's discussion.
Yes. Yeah. Let's try to let's try to hone in more on this guy because
Dude.
there's so much lore.
And then we see the Death Star for the first time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Intro to the Death Star.
Dude,
There's a
it's
lot of really
fucking-
good.
It's fucking wild how quickly we see the Death Star. We get some really sick shots of the interior, and then it's immediately like we have dissolved the Senate, and like just in the middle of a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna say that. Yeah, that's something I forgot about this whole section. They really do set up a lot about the way the Empire operates here, and yeah, the fact that they say the Emperor has just disbanded the last remnants of the Republic,
Yeah.
and they're talking about how all the planets are gonna rebel against them now, and they're like, no, it's fine, we're gonna rule through fear.
Yeah. The
Um,
local
and-
governors will keep them in line. Fear will keep them in line. You know, is what
Exactly.
they say.
Yes. Yeah, I love that a lot.
Fear of this battle station. And then Darth Vader starts talking about the Force, which is just a cool thing. Just-
What's the line? The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force.
Yeah.
So good.
I find
Um,
your lack of faith disturbing.
Yes,
Chokes the
dude.
shit
Oh
out of
my
him.
gosh.
Can we
Talk
talk
about
about-
sound design
Oh,
when
and
he's
can-
choking him, dude, and you just get this rumbling, like it just feels claustrophobic in the sound design. I love that so much.
And then
it's really well done.
and then Peter Cushing just absolutely kills this
Yeah.
role as Grand Moff
Yeah.
Tarkin.
All those characters, all those
So
British character
goddamn
actors that
perfect.
are part of the Empire as well.
Yeah.
Like they all do such a great job of sort of portraying this like, you know, like looking down their nose at like other people sort of vibe, right? And then the
Mhm.
fact that like, dude, they're all human, right? That's something that we see from the very beginning, and they are homogenous. While the new world that Luke is gonna
and British.
and British, yes,
Yeah.
for the most part, some of them are kind of like American with like transatlantic accents. They're all theater majors, is what they are. And then like, especially later on, we're gonna see very soon Luke dipping his toe into this world of like insane, diversity, like all of these different people, and we do see that on the Rebel Alliance side as well. Not so much in this movie, but later on for sure.
Totally.
Yeah.
Next I have them finding the wrecked what's it called?
The
Sand what?
Sandcrawler.
The
Sand truck?
Sandcrawler.
Sandcrawler. This line made me laugh out loud. Only Imperial stormtroopers are so precise. Just like after the reputation of the stormtroopers. So funny to me that it's like, no, only they could be so perfect.
It is pretty good.
And nothing else.
Yeah, it is pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
I did want to say the Hidden Fortress reference was in that scene with all the officers.
Oh,
you haven't
nice.
find the rebels' hidden fortress, but
Just yeah.
dude, and then like Luke's like moment of realization after the Sandcrawler, like when they're talking it through, and he just
Yeah.
like speeds off.
Gotta get
without
home.
them, dude.
I love that.
Yeah.
So
And then
brutal.
I would venture to say that's the crossing of the first threshold, maybe, because he realizes he cannot, in fact, turn back.
I
after
think
that.
seeing the house set on fire
Yeah.
is a
Yeah.
true like no
Well,
going
yeah.
back
and his,
moment. You
pa-
know?
his basically adopted parents just burnt corpses
Yeah,
laying there
yeah.
out
Very
front.
graphic. Very
I'm
graphic.
Yeah.
I'm struck by just how that's like the most disturbing thing in all the movies, right? Is
Yeah,
there
and
burnt
it's-
up corpses.
It's
like-
funny how like subtle it is because I feel like I watched it many times before. Oh my god, those are burnt just skeletal remains of these people. And I was
Yeah,
like,
and they don't look. It's not like just clean cartoonish bones. Like it looks like there was some meat on there, and
Yeah.
it's like still like plastered on a bit. Like it's gross, man. It looks
Charred.
Yeah, and it's that scene's always kind of
Charred.
a little bit funny to me because he sees that and then he turns to Obi-Wan and goes like, "I'm coming to Alderaan with you."
Yeah, there is. It's funny because there is a version like of this where it's like should Luke have a bigger reaction to this? But it's also like it doesn't fit necessarily.
There is an amount
know.
of time we are not with Luke in the story between him going back
True.
to Obi-Wan, and also he comes back, and there is, I think, a weight to the way Obi-Wan says, like, "I'm sorry, there's nothing you could have done." That's like the first thing that's said. Like he doesn't
Yeah.
say anything, and I think that, to me, I guess the implication is like Luke like probably fucking cried his eyes out that whole speeder ride back, and then he got there and he knew exactly what he had to
Yeah,
do. He
yeah,
was like
yeah.
now a hero with a singular focus.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I think he even says too, is like, "There's nothing here for me now," right?
Yeah,
So it's just
yeah.
like, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Like he did have like there was probably like a moment where he sat there over their bodies or something, and then it's like shit, and then it's like, well, now I have to get out of here because they'll surely be back soon, and then
Right.
whatever on the speeder ride back, like you just said too, just time for him to process. But it always just strikes me as kind of funny how the scene just quickly goes like, "Okay, I'm going."
yeah. Yeah.
Some efficient storytelling, getting
yeah,
it moving.
yeah, it's good.
For sure. Yeah, and like you said, Eric, I have going with Ben as crossing the threshold.
Yeah,
For sure. We definitely have some visuals that'll reinforce that as well, I think, as we move forward. The torture ball, I think this is the next scene, right? With fucking
yeah.
he comes in with the fucking dude, that thing is like nightmare fuel, dude.
Like
Yeah,
whatever the hell
another-
that thing's supposed to be, right?
Another great, really trippy, cool design. It's just like, man.
Yeah. I think
So
that
good.
that torture ball too, like, is one thing that really, like, an element of some filmmaking that I really enjoy is that making the menacing thing sort of vague and you don't really know what it is. You just see the thing, and then
It's the
what
door
is
closing.
yeah, the door closes. You
shot of
don't
the
know what
door
that ball
closing,
does.
yeah.
You just see a needle,
Yeah.
sure, but it's like, what is that
Exactly.
thing? What sort of pain is this inflicting?
What
You
can
know,
it do to what can it do? What is it doing
Yeah.
to her?
Absolutely. Next, I had, and I think you're right. Like that, the scream is definitely supernatural aid, but I have these aren't the droids you're looking for. Also
For sure.
supernatural aid. For
Yeah,
sure.
I think the moment before that, when they're all on the cliff looking down at Mos Eisley, that for me was another
crossing
great
the
sort of visual
threshold.
metaphor. Yes, of we're going into the shit.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Into the belly of the whale, per se.
Yeah, the cantina is. I put cantina is belly ? Like, there's kind of a couple points where he's kind of thrown into the deep end here,
Yeah.
but
I
in
think
It's
terms
maybe
of
like the gallbladder, maybe the
Yeah, I was gonna
kidney.
say certainly a belly of the whale. It could be like a
Yeah.
cow where there's 4 stomachs, so the belly continues.
for sure.
But I do
Um,
think that the thing you're saying about these aren't the droids you're looking for, super great, iconic line, like very awesome scene, and serves great purpose. It's like when we finally get a more, not concrete, but like more definition to what force powers are or how
Right.
they can be used.
right. Totally.
Yeah, and like to your point earlier about these themes that are going to continue to come up, like early uses of the Force are just going to be just like very direct supernatural aids because you don't really understand what it is yet,
Mhm.
and you've had minimal exposure, so it's just very much like, oh, this is a new, different thing that's helping me get through these things. Otherwise, I don't know how the hell we would have gone through that, right? Even Luke says,
100%.
like, I don't understand how we got past those guards, right?
Yep. The cantina theme. I think John Williams had no idea how iconic that was gonna be.
Yeah, it's like that's just
It's
some
so
silly shit
good,
that's
bro.
gonna happen here, and then it's just slaps.
Ingrained in all of
Yeah.
culture for all time. Do,
Yeah.
do, do,
Play
do,
the
do,
same song.
Is that a Family Guy reference?
Yeah.
They walk in right and they tell them they can't have the droids there. But I have a note as well. So you're like, okay, the bartender's kind of an asshole. But then Luke, when he goes to sit down at the bar, he tugs the guy's
Yeah.
shirt from behind. And dude, you can't do that, Luke. That's
Yeah.
not okay,
That's-
dude.
that's a
It's like, give me one
lifelong-
of those. Give me one
Yeah.
of those.
He don't even say anything.
Fuck
He
is
just
your
points
problem?
at it. He just like here, and then he turns around, and just hands him some random shit. Like, look, who the fuck are you, you fucking child?
Yeah, well, I get the sense that this isn't his first time. So that's why it's a little questionable if this is the belly of the whale. It's still a little homey for him, I guess, even though he almost immediately gets murdered for no reason.
Yeah.
I don't like you either.
Sorry.
Okay, bud.
Okay, why don't this might be like the esophagus of the whale? Not quite at the
Yeah,
belly
something
yet.
like that. Yeah.
Speaking of esophagus, the noises again, the alien
Yeah.
different sounds,
And
as
all the
they're panning around,
designs,
yeah.
yes, I love all
This
the
is
weird
kind
freaks.
of like a montage of sorts. This is really a
Yeah.
collection taking in the different races in the room.
Yeah.
I also love how like it is kind of set up like, oh shit, this is like we have crossed the threshold, because like when the guy gets when Obi-Wan fucking murks the fucking guy, or it cuts
Mhm.
off his arm, like the baboon guy gets his arm cut off, like they just return to business so quickly. It's just
Yeah,
like, okay,
I love that too. Yeah, just
do.
super grungy. And then again when Han Solo kills Greedo, right?
Yeah.
Just immediately back
Sorry
to
about
it.
the mess. Flips him a coin.
Love it. And on the note of chopping his arm off, I do love that Obi-Wan tries to resolve it peacefully first.
Yeah.
Let me buy you a drink,
Yeah.
right? And only resorts to violence when he needs to. I
This
think
one's not
that's
worth the
just like,
trouble.
that's what the Jedi are about, and I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe my least favorite thing in this movie is the CGI solo dodge of the bullet.
Yeah.
The
see,
whole
so that
who shot first thing.
but
wasn't
in the 97 cut.
Yeah, I don't remember it, but yeah, man, it's just like
It's
it
weird.
looks so
It was
bad.
a strange
and it's like,
insert.
wait, so he can dodge bullets, and also like you're
Yeah.
undercutting what you were originally going for here, which is he is ready to kill someone if they're pointing a gun at him, which isn't like, I know they're trying to make it more like they're trying to make him a little more friendly and heroic, but it's like,
But also,
guy was
he's
about
like
to
a
blow
bounty
his brains
hunter.
out.
Yeah. So like he knows what's
like,
up. It's not like he's
I
doing
don't
this
know.
because it's for no reason. Like he knows he's about to die here if he doesn't give him any money. So
Yeah,
it's like,
just-
well, I better kill him before he kills me.
I had
I hate
forgotten
that
about
they
this,
made that
and
canon.
I didn't really like notice it.
you didn't clock it, yeah?
I wasn't really
Yeah.
thinking about it. I was like,
Yeah,
whatever,
that
dude,
was
you know,
definitely like a new edit when they did the weird dodge in Greedo shoots first thing. Like that's why
Yeah,
the whole Han shot first thing is like all the original scenes were just Han Solo just shooting him. Like, yeah, I bet he will or something, and then he just leans forward and shoots him under the table.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Harrison
great.
Ford's fucking great in this too, and
Oh
like
my gosh, he
mhm.
is.
the whole like discussing the price with him. He's like, I'm gonna charge you
Yeah.
10. But we could get a ship for that. He's like, we'll give you 2, and then we'll give you 15. And he's like,
Yeah.
17? Okay, dude, shit, let's do it. Like
Yeah, no, I love that scene a lot too. Again, just like setting up the world and like in terms of like what the stakes of the world,
Right.
feeling lived in, feeling like these people actually have these strong motivations, and like it's just fun to watch people like go through a sci-fi negotiation. It's
yeah,
cool.
and
Yeah.
the negotiation followed by setting up the stakes for Han Solo.
Yep.
And then then again followed up with him
With
talking
Jabba.
to fucking Jabba the Hutt. And dude, Huttese is so fucking fun. I love it, dude. Like he's just like keeps calling him. He's like saying Han, my boy, Han, my bookie. It's fucking so fucking.
My favorite
So
is
good, dude.
Banta Poodle.
Wait, okay, so in the original,
That
Jabba was
scene-
just a dude, or is it just?
No, that scene's not in the original.
Oh, okay.
So
I
he basically
see.
has the same conversation with Greedo.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
So the
Gotcha,
Jabba
gotcha.
scene is just repeating a conversation. I think originally they did film that, and it was just a dude that they had.
Okay,
in
because I
place.
had seen footage of that, so that's
yeah,
why I was.
because I think the idea was that they would put it in there at some point
And
or
then they just couldn't
something, and then
make
they
it
couldn't
work.
figure out how to make it work. So then they just stuck with the Greedo scene. Because if you do go back and watch that, you'll see that it's more or less word for word the same scene. Right? They talk
Right.
about the same money things and everything,
Yeah.
except there's just no shooting.
And Boba
um,
Fett's there.
Yeah,
Boba Fett
for
is
some
there,
reason,
yeah.
yeah.
Which I was just happy to see him because he looks so awesome. I
Yeah.
was so obsessed with Boba Fett when I was a kid, man. It's like
Who
the
wasn't,
coolest
dude?
armor.
Yeah, he's freaking great. He just didn't belong in that scene. So.
No.
I'm very much a hardcore original cut guy. I can't stand watching the new ones. Like it's to the
Yeah,
point that
I
I
feel
have the laser disc version on my computer if I really want to watch. Like if I need to sit down to watch the movies, I'd watch those.
That's awesome.
because I don't always have the VCR, so it's just the one I stream at. But yeah, it just the Jabba scene was so unnecessarily inserted into the new versions, and I didn't like it at all. It just felt weird.
Yeah.
I do like how quickly we go from the deal being made, setting up all these stakes, and then selling the speeder, and then
Yeah.
they're fucking being chased off the planet.
Mhm.
Essentially.
Yeah, they're getting followed too. I've forgotten that.
Yeah.
There's some weird freak following them, so I guess just like an Imperial spy or something. Or
Wow,
Oh,
dude,
yeah,
you're being like
fucking
super
narc.
racist this episode, Connor. You're just some freak because he's an alien, dude.
He is
He's
a
got a
fucking hell, man.
trunk.
He's a fucking narc, dude. That's what he is.
Absolutely a narc. I'll definitely cop up to that word. So fuck that guy for being a narc.
Next we have the destruction of Alderaan. I do think it's really interesting that Tarkin is Vader's boss. Yeah, I didn't actually write much for this. Again, just that it's interesting that Tarkin is the one in charge here, not Vader. I think that kind of shows a little bit of the, the craft there in terms of, like Vader was not originally intentioned, or the intention was not for Darth Vader to be like this second hand of the Empire originally, which is like kind of how he's presented the rest of the trilogy. But Tarkin's a badass, so maybe Tarkin is the exception. It goes Emperor, Tarkin, Vader, everyone else.
Yeah.
Destruction of Alderaan, like I said, a lot of tricking going on, right? Tarkin tricks Leia into saying where the rebel base is, but Leia's a badass as well, and she tricks Tarkin, but Tarkin blows up Alderaan anyway. Setting the stakes, it's just cool to see the Death Star blow something up. That's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it is pretty fucking wild too, and then fucking seeing the way Obi-Wan reacts afterwards as
Yeah.
well. I think so. Is the because the jump to hyperspace is something that has always
I have that
stuck with
after
me.
this, yeah.
Where the fucking stars like fucking
It looks great. Yeah.
just like fucking stretch. It's so fucking
Yeah,
sick.
I mean, like, what a vision to have that as the scene or the way in which you jump to light space, and then it just is the way everyone now envisions how you would
Totally.
approach faster than light travel, sort of thing. It's like, God,
looks
that's
so cool.
fucking cool.
Yeah.
And I did feel like Luke finally leaving his home planet is like ultimate, like, dude, if you were
Crossing
curious
threshold.
if we had crossed the threshold,
Yeah,
we're
this
fully
is
into
now,
the unknown.
now we in it. Yeah,
Yeah. And, Belly of the Whale getting shot at by the Empire immediately, probably, right? Like, Belly of the
Mhm.
Whale's somewhere around here. Maybe it's in the Death Star, but, And,
That
like,
was the one that I have. That's what I have
in the
for
Death
sure.
Star, sure.
Yes.
Yeah, that's like the
tractor beam-
clearest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pulling them in, for sure.
It's a whale of a station, dude. That's what they
Yeah.
said, right?
Oh my
Eric, you
gosh.
tell us. You
Did they
work
say
on
it's a-
it, right?
Did they say there was a whale of a station?
No.
no, they say
Just
it's a
like,
small moon. That's clearly a small moon.
No, I was just saying that to be silly.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, and this is all Road of Trials too, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's like
escaping.
practicing the Force on.
Yeah, he's
on the
training.
Millennium
I
Falcon.
love the little discussion of the Force and like Han Solo, like he doesn't believe in it and all that. And I do think it's really interesting, just the idea that like there's so many people in the galaxy who just don't believe in the Force, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's a like, a very different conception than what I have, or like what I've seen throughout the rest of the trilogies, right?
Mhm.
Where it's like, well, everyone knows that the Force is a thing. Everyone knows that Jedis are like,
Well, at this point in time, I guess we don't know this when we're watching the movie, right? But at this point in time, a lot of the Jedi were hunted down and killed.
Right.
And
No, he
Force,
did say
Force
that.
use was like very
Yeah.
much discouraged, so a lot of people just sort of shunned it from their lives.
It's cool that we start the whole story in like a force, like
Forceless
like a
world.
force-
Scarce,
like sort of like
scarce.
force. Yeah, force scarce world where it's not
Yeah.
like flowing. Like
Yeah.
it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, well,
Mhm.
it reminded me of the dragons in Game of Thrones, right at the beginning. And it's like there's people who are just like, even though the bones of the dragons are like in the castle, they're still like, no, I mean that's just folk tales. Have you ever seen a dragon? Okay,
Yeah.
whatever, right? Like that's great stuff.
I do think that as like a really good another like straight visual metaphor to step, the blinder with the lightsaber with the remote, when he blocks
Yeah.
the 3 shots.
Yeah.
That's a great sort of road of trials. Like
Yeah.
if you were gonna if you're
100%.
teaching a class, you want to show a quick scene, give that example. Obi-Wan also says an awesome line to him, because Luke says, I
Oh, I
did
have
feel
this.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he says that you've taken your first step into a larger world.
Yeah.
Oh,
Such
yeah.
a fucking
Which
good
is
line.
awesome,
Such
yeah.
a sick line.
Yeah, actually, the line, that's a great line as well. The line I had written down is, your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them.
Which I was
is-
going to bring up that line because I use that as an engineer. I'm like, my eyes always lie to me. I usually do things by feel because I'm more comfortable with that. And
Right.
like looking for a screw or something, but I'm always like, I've said it to customers like, yeah, I kind of do this way now because I feel like my eyes always lie to me. So like
Totally.
the other one, your eyes often deceive you. I'm like, yeah, this guy's an
Yeah,
engineer. It's cool.
And it's foreshadowing for the final climax of the movie, right, where he turns off the radar and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yes. Getting him to start trusting himself and his
Yeah,
connection
totally.
to the world.
Yeah, faith is also a big. We haven't brought this up, but like faith in yourself and faith in the Force is a big theme of this story, and they're showing the contrast between Han Solo and Obi-Wan here. One has complete faith in the Force, the other has no faith in the Force, and then Luke's like in the middle, kind of like trying to figure out what the heck's going on.
Yeah, I mean, well, I would say to Han Solo, yeah, like no faith in the Force, but a lot of faith in himself, right? So I
Yes.
feel
Yeah.
like he
True.
is. They're just two sides of the same coin in a way, I guess. Like one is just like you need to trust the Force, and the other one is trust yourself. And then Luke's like,
Right.
maybe it's more about finding the spot in the middle.
He also trusts
Totally.
the Millennium Falcon a lot.
Yes.
He loves them.
Yes,
Which is
that comes
dope,
up a
dude.
couple
We
times.
haven't said
Yeah.
it. We haven't said
Yeah,
it, but that's an iconic
Yes.
piece
Oh,
of
it
fucking.
looks so good. The interior looks so good. The outside looks so good. I love it.
This whole movie looks awesome.
Yeah, it
It
really
looks
does.
amazing. Except
like
for the
it.
shit we've said that we didn't like.
Yeah, that stuff sucks.
Yeah,
far.
but that was
That stuff sucks.
Oh yeah, just a little note. I've always really this has always stuck in my head, the weird little chess game they're playing.
Oh yeah,
With Chewbacca. Yeah, we haven't even mentioned Chewbacca.
that is
I don't
super
think.
cool.
Chewbacca's
No, we haven't
awesome.
said shit about Chewie.
Perfect.
What a
Perfect.
costume that was too. Peter Mayhew, shout
Yeah,
out.
dude.
I think
Yeah,
R.I.P.
he looks great, dude. Yeah, too bad. Next line I have is that's no moon.
Yeah, the whole setup to that moment is great.
Coming
as
out of
well.
hyperdrive into the rubble of the planet. Yeah,
Mhm.
I love that. That's such
They
a
say, and before the no moon, there's the whole thing with that fighter, a fighter that small can be this deep in space on its own.
Yeah, again, the logistics of all this stuff. They are talking about it as experienced veterans
Right.
of space, and no. Well, that's that type of ship. It must be close to a station, or it could be lost. I love that all those little discussions, just building out the world, building out these characters and their knowledge and place in the world.
And then they're caught in the fucking tractor beam, dude.
Yeah.
Fuck, man. That
Yeah.
is all hope is lost, baby, dude.
Yeah.
And you're being sucked in to the fucking belly of the whale,
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely the belly.
The
of the whale
whale.
for sure.
Yeah.
Again, it's the most visually salient moment, I think, for that sort of idea.
Yeah, and in terms of just hopelessness, which I think the belly of the whale is supposed to encompass a bit, this feeling of just
Absolutely.
insurmountable odds you're being put against, and it's
Yeah.
literally a moon-shaped enemy base, or
I think
moon-sized enemy base.
All hope is lost is the Save the Cat one, the
Mhm.
Save the Cat name for this step, which is a screenwriting book.
Interesting.
Thanks.
I have a small little plot hole here I noticed coming up.
Ooh.
When they steal the outfits from the stormtroopers,
A little short for a stormtrooper.
they clearly shot them. You hear them shoot
Oh, yeah.
them, but they don't have any marks on their suits or anything. One of those whatever kind of plot holes, but they we've seen them get blasted and there's these big black marks all over them, but whatever.
Well, Connor, what you
Wait,
didn't see is that
stop
they
the
lifted up
recording.
their shirts.
Oh, I see.
Shot
They
each one in the
actually
chest.
missed when they shot them, and then they hit them over the head.
yeah, exactly.
They took off their helmets, shot him in the head. But actually, Dude, this is too much for me. We cannot proceed now, dude.
Yeah, I ruined Star Wars for you.
Anyway, let's keep going.
I love that. I love that Vader shows up, and again, this is something I just forgot how clever he was. He clocks exactly what's happening, and he realizes that Obi-Wan's there and that they're there for the princess. And he sets this whole plot into motion right at this moment that he's going to let them escape so that he can track them to the rebel base.
Yeah.
Which is like, damn, dude,
Yeah.
3D chess going on with Vader here. That's crazy.
There's even steps to it too, right? Because there is the
Yeah.
he like gets the twinge of something, and then he's like,
Yeah.
even though they're like, oh, we checked it, he's like, I want a full scan done, so he sends the team to scan, and so we have this like again this sort of escalating of the cat and mouse game that is being played.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
Well, that whole thing too, like he senses it. The twinge you say, right? Like presence I have not felt since.
Yeah.
Immediately recognizes who he's, what presence that is, and then sets off to do his thing. For
Yeah.
The rest of the scene.
Next up, I have Han Solo is on a big hero's journey here too. Like we get the refusal of his call where he just wants to sit in the control room.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to go save the princess. He gets talked to and do it from the money.
Rich,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
Appealing to his greed.
I can imagine a lot. Yeah.
Luke's learning to be
Totally.
manipulative from fucking R2D2, dude.
Yeah, he's learning
That
all
was
those
the
cunning
other
tricks.
part of the trials. There was him playing chess with R2D2.
I
so.
do love that Han Solo is initially like, this is so boring. We're just gonna stay here, just waiting for him to go like fucking disable the tractor beam. So boring. And then he's like, dude, let's go save her. And he's like, no, we should stay here. And then Luke even calls him out. He's like, Luke was like, you were talking about how you didn't want to stay here. It was so boring.
Yeah.
Come on, let's go. He's like, no.
Yeah, and I do, Luke's been very gung-ho this whole time, but I do think this is a big character moment for him, and just in terms of, no, I'm going to go save the princess. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to take that initiative here. I don't, this is the first time without the mentor, right? Like, that was
Yeah.
his last time actually having a conversation with Obi-Wan, besides,
Yeah.
like, the,
And he says, the Force
uh,
will be with
Force
you
Ghost.
always.
Yeah, yeah.
At the end of that, he
exactly.
says, the Force will be with you always when he leaves. To go,
Mhm.
turn off the tractor beam. I love the setup,
yeah.
too, of, like, the schematic of, like, this is where it is. And then he, like, he's like, okay, I'm going to go, but I'm going to have to go it alone.
Yeah.
Totally.
But also really good sound editing again with the noise of turning it off.
Yeah, I fucking love,
Yeah.
The
God, it
sounds
was
of
so
that
cool.
shit is really dope. And the way he's, like, sneaking around the column.
Yeah.
It's very, very good.
And I think he uses the Force to essentially tap one of them on the shoulder. Is what I always
Yeah,
think.
I think he made a sound over
Yeah,
somewhere.
I'm sure he did,
yeah.
but it just in my head, it's just so much funnier to be like, they'll tap on the other, just run the other direction.
Oh man, being a Jedi would be fun.
Yeah.
Just fuck with people all day.
This is a cool thing too, because so we have that first split with Obi-Wan, then we have the second split of
Yeah.
Han Solo, Chewbacca, and Luke leaving. So we're setting up sort of opportunities to do parallel action throughout the station,
right.
having different things happen, which will culminate in a really sick way when we finally get to the fucking like trash compactor scene. But I do love that like
Totally.
the seeds are being planted already. And like I mentioned earlier, the Wookiee prisoner trick is a fucking classic, dude. Like it's
Yes.
I think we've done it in D&D before, like
Yes.
several times.
Oh, he's
Absolutely.
loose. Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, again, like I was saying, there's just so much clever tricking happening throughout this whole movie, and I love it. It just keeps
Yeah.
everything really fun and like entertaining.
And the visual, like when you look at him, he does look like short in the like suit. Like it doesn't quite fit him, which is also good.
Oh, great.
Good visual storytelling. Like the shot of him and Han Solo and Chewbacca, like as they're coming up, you can tell which one is Luke. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. I love the whole conversation between Han Solo and the guy on the other end of the radio.
It's fine. Everything's fine. How are
Boring
you?
conversation anyway. Yeah, all that's really great.
Big reactor leak.
Yeah, at first,
Very
he's like,
dangerous.
we're okay, we're okay. And it's like, dude, you sound so sketch. Like, I wouldn't believe you either.
Yeah, that whole back and forth is great.
Yeah.
love. There's like 20 shots of them blowing up the cameras in there.
Yeah.
They really were like, we need to like blow up a lot of cameras.
We need to really
yeah.
make it known that these things are
There's-
gone. There's no
yeah,
surveillance in here
there's,
whatsoever. We
there's, like,
promise.
15 different shots or something of them just blowing up these cameras. It's really funny. And I think, yeah, so they do get Leia here, right? I'm trying to figure out exactly where the scene comes in here because I have a quote from Vader because he's talking to Tarkin. Yeah, so there's this really interesting line that Vader says to Tarkin when they're kind of discussing, because Tarkin at first doesn't believe that Obi-Wan's here, and Vader's like, he is here. And Vader says to him that escape is not his plan,
Yeah.
which is so interesting to me. To me, that says that Vader kind of knows that he's going to die here, or does he just mean that he knows that he wants to challenge Vader? But like just one, like a very mysterious line for me.
Damn, yeah.
Yeah, I
didn't even notice that.
To
That's
me,
so
that kind of
wild.
always meant that, like, I think he understood, and I think it's one of those things that about like feeling with the Force was like he can feel that he doesn't want to escape. He's mostly just here to, yeah, maybe confront Vader, but definitely like Obi-Wan doesn't want to escape, but they might. So
Right.
Obi-Wan will definitely be like either their distraction or the reason that they get away. But like we were saying earlier, I think at that point he had figured that they would let them escape anyway. So as long as they had the tracking on the ship, it's fine to let them go. But Obi-Wan doesn't plan on leaving this station, right? So like I think he
Yeah.
knew that essentially that. But I think at the same time, Vader doesn't understand that. Right. The whole thing with Vader is that he was trying to avoid death.
Right.
But there are, as the Jedi like have said, like there are more powerful things in this world than that, right? So then
Right.
Obi-Wan knows this and is like, I'm okay with dying here because I can, like even the line,
Yeah.
right? If you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you
Yeah.
can ever imagine.
I was
right?
actually-
So, like,
Right,
he
totally.
knows that,
This is jumping ahead.
but
I think it is
Yeah.
relevant. That is like apotheosis right there. He's encapsulating the idea
Yeah.
of apotheosis in a sentence. And I actually said that right before that. Darth Vader is spitting a fucking atonement with the father type beat because he says, "I was once the the student. I'm now the master." Like he's basically
Yeah.
there's cool
Yeah.
references even to these like stages
Right.
and they feel very sort
Yeah.
of like deliberate and I don't know, fucking sick little things to reinterpret in this sort of like context.
Totally.
Did you have Finding the Princess as the meeting with the goddess?
Meeting with the goddess.
I would have said
yeah,
meeting with the goddess for
I
sure.
do, but just because that's kind of all the only place it fits. I don't know if Leia really fits the role of the goddess in the kind of typical sense of the hero's journey.
She motivates him in a way, I think.
I think she does. I really feel that feels very appropriate here because I wouldn't at all call that the temptress, right? There's like nothing
No.
here that says that at all. But like she very much from the get-go is like, I'm not just some helpless person in this situation. Like I
Well, but
very much like she has like
Yeah.
insight. She helps them get out. Like she's like, let's go type thing.
Yeah.
So like it's a force of person who has experience with all this and like is like I have a greater insight in this moment. So I kind of see that as like
Sure.
sort of the goddess moment. If
Yeah, no, I mean, if it's in this movie, that's what it is, right? Like, that's the
Yeah.
only spot it really fits. It's just that I've usually, like, she seems more like just one of the crew versus, like, when I think of the goddess, it's more of, like, this higher being or entity that imparts some, like, wisdom to you. And she's more of just, like, now she's part of the crew. Like, now our crew's complete.
But she does
More than, like...
She does provide, yes. I totally agree with you that it is like, like another member has joined the crew, but she does immediately provide wisdom in like how to escape. She's like, these two guys
For sure.
like really only thought it that far, and then she's like, she's the one who blasts open like the trash chute and is the one like
I mean,
go
even
down
she even
there.
says too, like not much of an escape plan, or who says? I think she
Yeah,
says
that's
something
what
like
she-
that.
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she's definitely a badass.
So
That
I
cannot
again,
be
it's not a
disputed.
perfect, like cookie cutter example, but I think there is some of that again, and I do like that she is the way that she's portrayed. I think fucking phenomenal fucking acting job. I think also phenomenal like writing for her. Like yeah, Well played.
Yeah,
You know,
especially
R.I.P.,
for
dude.
that that
Yeah,
period of history.
R.I.P.
Yeah,
Her and
totally.
Debbie.
Yeah. Um, the next note I have is, and you might actually know this, Eric, if you've been scrolling through these wikis. What the hell is the monster in the trash compactor?
Yeah,
Why is
dude.
that thing there?
I had a note about
Where
how
did this thing come from,
how
man?
terrifying it is to think about this. This is a fucking this is a government-run like space station, and in its trash compactor, there is some sort of monster.
Horrible tentacle monster.
Imagine
yeah.
that movie, that standalone horror movie from as like a Star Wars thing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a
Might
good
fit
idea.
a category that we'll present later.
Ooh.
Yeah, I honestly, I might have read about it at some point in life, but I have no idea.
I'm
The only
sure there's a
thing-
wiki page on this, but
I'm sure
it's
there's
just like,
something, but
The
like,
one eyeball guy.
yeah.
he
But
probably
I'm
has
sure
a
it's
name.
Cotton
just
Eye
like
Joe?
I'm sure he
the
has a name
explanation
too.
that I think of in my head too is just like, oh, it's a trash compactor, right? So like at some point threw something away that maybe had some parasitic egg.
Oh,
and
that's
it
a really
just
good
kinda
call.
grew into this fucking worm or whatever.
Absolutely,
Ah,
yes.
I like that.
That was my that was my take as well. Like
like that.
honestly, it's still
Oh.
terrifying.
Right,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, I don't think
Terrifying,
it's outside the realm of possibility, like even
Oh,
within
no.
the sci-fi universe.
No, it
right?
wasn't.
But it's just
That
like,
wasn't a nitpick. I was just
No,
like,
no, no.
"What-
I'm
why
just
is this
like-
thing here?
I've very frequently, I'm like, why the fuck? What is this fucking thing? Right?
Yeah.
Is it part of a greater monster on some other part of the ship? Like, what's the
Yeah, you
deal
have no
with
idea
this?
how big it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have escalation again because he's pulled under, and then it's like, oh shit, fuck, and then it's kind of cool because there's this sort of causality that's set up of like, oh, it runs away, and also it can travel between the trash compactors. Like there's an implication
Yeah.
of depth when Luke is like pulled
Yeah.
under, but when they're
Yeah.
standing, they're
Yeah.
only waiting to their shins, and then
Right, yeah.
it leaves because it knows that the compactor is closing and it's gonna be crushed. How
Right,
does
it
it
knows
leave?
this
How does
world,
it
yeah.
do that? Is it like going through pipes? Is it like a pipe-shaped
Yeah.
monster? What
It's
the
very
fuck?
creepy, very good.
And then immediately,
Um,
like I said, escalation. Now, dude,
Yeah,
Okay.
the wall's closing in.
now everyone is in danger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, I was surprised by this scene, on this rewatch because it was one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Like just like you said, the tension behind it and all of them kind of panicking to work together. You know, Leia trying to get Han to help her to put the thing up, but like Luke on the call trying to get to C-3PO and R2-D2 to stop it from happening. It was just like a really like fun, intense scene, and it like looks great visually. You know.
Yeah, and then I always laugh so hard when they like are, crying in jubilation that they're saved
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're dying,
Yeah.
R2.
Yeah, I love that too.
Kind of the culmination
Uh,
of this sort of like cutting back and forth, this parallel action that had been set up before. And I do love how we see the stormtroopers come in at one point. And again, some more of this trickery, right? Where C-3PO is like, oh, they went this way. And then he's like, I think he calls him his counterpart. I love that too. He uses that term like a
Yeah.
couple times. He says, my counterpart has been malfunctioning. I want to take him to the maintenance bay. And so that's how they leave there. And he has the transmitter off, right? Because he doesn't want them
Yeah.
to hear Luke
yeah.
like yelling. And then finally, like, R2-D2 does tell him, like, turn on the transmitter. He's like, what? Turn on the transmitter?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
and it's like, C-3PO! C-3PO!
Yeah, turn off all the trash compactors on the detention level
Yeah.
or whatever it is.
So
yeah, and he just
but I
keeps
think-
saying it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the line for he's like, I think all this excitement has fried my counterpart circuits or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
That's great.
And that's also really funny.
Han Solo has a funny line too. He's like, "One thing's for sure, we're all going to be a lot thinner."
Yeah, he just-
as
yeah.
the trash compactor's closing on them.
Classic.
And of course, I never noticed this as a kid, but I like the memes I saw online, and then now every time it's so obvious to me. But when the stormtroopers come into the control room, and there's just the loudest bang of the stormtrooper hitting his head,
hits his
on,
head
the
on the
door
lower
as it's
door.
going up, man. It's so funny, and it's such a loud sound too. Like, how did this get into the
Yeah.
movie? You know?
I think I read too that door actually like broke, so they couldn't quite move
Oh.
it, so they had to kind of duck or whatever, and this one guy just didn't move.
those doors are fucking terrifying the way they close, dude. Like, it feels like
Yeah.
it's
So
fucking
fast.
murk you, dude.
You'd just be
For
dead.
sure. Next, I have Han chasing the stormtroopers is silly. but
Yeah,
fun.
it is
Like, what the
super
hell
fun,
is his
yeah.
plan here, dude?
He's like, ah!
What is he gonna do, bro?
Room full of stormtroopers and just bop, he runs.
Some Scooby-Doo shit, dude. Some Scooby-Doo
Yeah,
shit.
it really is. And the precision of the stormtroopers coming back here is like,
yeah.
like what, hundreds of stormtroopers? They all
Yeah.
completely
So
miss
many
him.
bullets, dude.
Like, oh god.
Yeah. So many lasers fired.
Oh. I guess I'm okay then. Never mind.
He's unscathed.
Only a stormtrooper could be this precise.
Yeah, dude.
Next, I have there's the scene where because now Han and Chewie are separated from Luke and Leia,
Yeah.
and they go into there's that fun scene where they're running away from them, and they get the blast doors to close from the droids close it for them.
Yeah.
And the stormtroopers are like, close the blast doors,
Open the blast doors,
open the blast doors.
That's really good comedy stuff. I love that.
Yeah.
I think before that because I have it as a note, there is the crossing of the chasm with Luke and Leia, where she gives him the kiss
Yeah.
for good luck, and you see Luke kind of have to be crafty, and they're like missing shots for
Yeah.
some further like road of trials, sort of like, you know, him
Totally.
starting to get into his own, like as a hero.
Yeah, being a badass. Yeah, he's like a regular Indiana Jones here for sure, swinging across with the lady under his arm. We also get a great Wilhelm scream here when one of the stormtroopers gets shot.
Oh!
Yeah, classic.
Yeah.
Was that the first?
No, the original is from some really old
Well, it's from an
kind of
old
like.
western, yeah. But
Yeah.
I think this might have been one of the first used outside of that.
Oh, maybe.
context, too.
Maybe, yeah.
It's definitely the
Um,
first in Star Wars, I think.
Yeah. I did notice it in the rest of the movie. Yeah, and the next note I have is this was interesting for me because I feel like this scene has gotten a lot of hate over the years. Like as the lightsaber fights have kind of progressively gotten more and more flashy and badass. But Vader versus Obi-Wan, hell yeah, that's what I wrote. I mean, they're not flashy, but I do like this kind of like they don't have to be. You know what it reminded me of? In the movie Hero, where they play out the entire fight in their head, and like I kind of like that they don't need to be like swinging super fast and like be crazy. And there's one goofy shot of Obi-Wan like doing a little like spin around that like I don't know, a little silly.
Yeah, I have no problem with the scene, and I would say
I like
would
it.
venture to say this one isn't particularly controversial unless you never saw the originals and you just were more into the newer stuff that came out.
Sure.
Because I think a thing that I read about this is a little bit more indicative of like a real sword fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
like also this scene was never really about the lightsaber fight. It was
Yeah.
about the tension between the two.
Yeah, and that's what
Right,
I'm
and-
saying. Like I feel like this is a mind. They're playing. They're fighting each other through their mind. So it's more of just them kind of judging the right moment to kind of strike and stuff. And yeah, it feels like I guess all I'm saying is it was higher stakes and like more intense than I remembered, given a lot of the discourse about
absolutely.
it online.
So I recently watched the Duelist, the Ridley Scott film
Yeah.
that has been praised for its accuracy of
Yeah.
sort of that sort of sword fighting. And I think that's really what it is, right?
Yeah.
It is like sort of has its basis in European, Western European like military tradition, and it feels very true to that. Having
Yeah.
seen that, and that's actually what I thought in my mind. Even the part where he's kind of like circling his like lightsaber around, that is
Yeah.
like something
Yeah.
you see
You're
a
kind
lot
of like
in that sort of style.
gauging if there's
Yeah.
any like holes in their defense and stuff. Like there's a lot of that, and yeah, I thought it was cool.
And I mean, as a person, I love the idea of, you know, kung fu choreography like being incorporated as an element in Star Wars. Like I think that shit is sick. Like I see this as
And
being
this is
totally,
inspired by a Kurosawa film as well. So like
Yeah.
there's probably some of that in there as well.
But I see it working perfectly in this context. And like you said, it is really just sort of this mental chess match, because ultimately, as soon as Obi-Wan sees that they're going to be able to get on the ship and leave safely, he allows himself to be struck down, because it was never about him defeating
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Darth
Right.
Vader,
And I think hi buddy. This is the moment for those listening. My cat has just jumped on my shoulder. Um, but yeah, this is like the moment again. He's surrendering himself to the Force, right? And so
Mhm.
what's our step 10? The apotheosis or whatever it is, right? Like
Yeah.
the true
Mhm.
divine
Yeah.
moment here is him truly like uh, giving up entirely to the faith that he has in the Force, right? And
Totally.
I
so
think it's
now,
like a modeling for Luke to have his apotheosis later
yeah,
in the
Later.
film.
Absolutely. Yeah. This
yeah, I
is
guess
this is definitely
that's also very
Obi-Wan's
true.
rebirth into a higher power for sure. This is Obi-Wan's apotheosis.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
into Force Ghost, coast to coast, you know.
Yes, sir. They escape.
Yes.
And again, I love the chess game Vader's playing here. He's they send
Yes.
some ships out after them, but they're letting them escape.
I had forgotten about this. I also have a note about the lasers from the TIE fighters and the Millennium Falcon are different colors, right?
Yeah.
So the Millennium Falcons are red and the like TIE fighters are green. That's a very easy visual thing to pay attention to. But what's funny about that is that it's the opposite of good and bad guy lightsaber
Yeah.
colors.
Oh.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, because the
Oh.
X-wings too are also red.
We got a mystery on our hands.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's a thing, it's a visual thing that's set up at that point. That you see like the Empire shooting green beams, the friggin' good guys, quote unquote, are shooting red beams,
Yeah.
and
well, even the
continues throughout the
Death Star
movie.
beam is green,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So,
Oh, that is interesting. I mean, the next thing I have is just how awesome the Millennium Falcon gunner rooms are.
Yeah.
The spinning turrets, man. Is that that part is so cool. And
Yeah.
is that in the rest of the trilogy at all? Do they use those guns again? I don't remember.
I think
them.
they use them not
Return
in
of
the
the
rest
Jedi?
of they might do some in Return of the Jedi, yeah. But that's probably about it.
Man, it's such a cool like way to design. Again, it's just the set design in this is immaculate.
I also was thinking about the layout of the ship, right? And and like you can see where they are like on the ship, right? So the ship it like is flat like this and the part comes down and you mount it and you're like this and we know that the like pilot part is in the front there, but the guns are on like either side, like the bottom and the top of it. And you can like see them rotating. And I just love like how they look like you can look down at one another from like the tunnel. It's fucking sick.
Yeah. Great kid, don't get
cocky, kid. Yeah,
Great
I love
fucking
it.
scene. Really, really well done. Really fun.
Yeah.
There's stakes but then again we kind of
music.
also know like, oh, they're gonna be okay, but still scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, kid, we're not out of the woods yet.
And I really like it because everyone's doing their part in this scene.
Yeah.
Besides C-3PO, he's kind of the gag of this, but you have Leia, like talking with the gunners, right? Like being like, "Oh, watch out for this ship coming. We're still trying to get this figured out." While Chewie is like, manning the controls of the ship.
Yeah.
And then you got the two gunners, and then you got R2D2 trying to like put out a fire that got started by getting hit from the ships, and then it's just like at the end, it's like a C-3PO, like entangled in wires or
Just
whatever, and
falling
he's
over,
like,
yeah.
"You did this to me." Yeah, just a fun way to like show everyone like pitching into the narrative
They're
here.
a
Yeah, I love it.
package. They're a package deal. That codependency makes them this really great, power couple.
Yeah, totally power couple. Yeah, more setting up of it's so funny that it really does feel like they're trying to set up Luke and Leia as the love interest
Yeah.
in this movie, and multiple times, just like Han asking Luke, "You think a princess and a guy like me?"
No.
Well,
Luke's
he asked him that
Just
because he asked him
immediately
that
no.
knowing that he's gonna upset him.
and he
he
and he
notices,
smirks.
yeah.
He smirks about it.
He notices he's
Yeah.
like, oh, I see the way he's talking about him, and then he asks him that question, and he's like, no.
I know.
Also, Luke,
Isn't it interesting to think about if this trilogy was a love story between them? Like I think it works so much better with Han Solo because Luke is on his own journey, and like
Right.
romance would probably slow his like plot down, But
yeah,
interesting to think about.
yeah, for sure. I do like Han and Leia because they are, to steal a quote from my friend Erik here, two sassy bitches,
Yeah, they're I mean
Absolutely.
their relationship in Empire Strikes Back is like so good.
As a Peruvian person, the fact that Luke is rocking a poncho, and that is a garment of Latin America, and it's cool to see him rocking that. I liked it. It looks good too. Like in the like
look
Is that
really
when they're
good.
already on the rebel
when
base?
they're
Or?
when they're on like
Yeah, this is something I had forgotten. That their base is inside of a pyramid, like
Yeah.
some old
Yeah.
ruins.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I had forgotten that. What a nice little like lore. Again, it's just the world building, man. It's so good.
and then we get the like I love how smartly it's set up, like the whole thing of like the plans and like the weak spot, and we have a very sort of clear goal. The guy does, when he's talking about who got them the plans, he calls her Princess Leia.
I wrote this down too. That's the second time.
Yeah.
I think Tarkin also called her Leah earlier in the film, but yeah, I wrote it down here because I was like, it's just another like remnant of showing just like now it's so ingrained into our minds.
Yeah.
But like yeah, there was just a name on a script like once upon a time.
No, that's good enough.
Love it.
Cut.
I don't want to redo this one for the 5th time. Let's get the hell out of here. The 25th time. Who the hell knows?
Did you guys notice that Vader says, today is a great day for the Empire, or today will be a great day for the Empire? And it made
Yeah.
me realize that, especially because of these categories we've kind of been chatting about in the back end of Cinema Forecast, that half of this movie takes place over a day.
Yeah, we really don't know. Like, it could have been a day. Like, this could be the same day they left Tatooine. Like, there's nothing that really clearly like we never see them sleep.
Right. There
you
is
know?
them playing
Like, we
chess
don't-
and him like doing the lightsaber thing, and you feel like time is passing. But again, when they're in the rebel base, it feels like
Yeah.
time would pass because they run him through like simulations and stuff like that. But no,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
set up like the timer at one point.
They're on their tail.
Yeah, they set up that the
yeah.
planet just not the planet, the Death Star just needs to like move into position, and we keep cutting back to that
Yeah.
timer. It's the like culmination
love
of
it.
this cat and mouse game we've been playing. The end, dude,
Yes.
like very real fucking. You completely blasted into bits, kind of danger, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think what it was too, right? Like they didn't know they were being followed, but then what the scene is like, there's a large object coming out of hyperspace, and they're like,
Yeah,
"Oh
well,
shit, that's a
Leia-
Death Star."
Again, Leia is a clever badass.
Oh,
Yeah,
right,
and
she
yeah,
did
she
mention
does
that too. Yeah,
clock.
she was like, "They let us go."
she like they
Yeah,
let us
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
It's more of that cat and mouse, more
Yeah.
of that back
Yeah.
and forth, that sort of scheming.
Yeah, and it's just like it's just refreshing to see this in movies because so often it's just like people are dumb or do dumb things because that
Right.
moves the plot forward. And I love that here it's just like no, everyone's being cunning and smart,
Yeah.
and this is a chess match between Leia and Vader in a certain way. Like it's just really good.
Yeah.
man.
I do have a note for Woman as Temptress, with Han
Yes,
leaving.
so do I.
With Han leaving, offering Luke the opportunity to go with him.
Yeah. Oh,
Yep.
that's good.
Yep, and it's also temptation for Han's character too in the
Mhm.
hero's journey. Right?
It kind of
And,
feels like a return for Han in a way.
Yeah.
yeah, or
Or
refusal,
to return, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. It's a return, refusal of the return. It is
Yeah.
definitely like him turning away, shirking a responsibility to pursue something else.
Totally. A
Yeah.
great beat for him. Yeah, and going back to that scene you were talking about with Vader, this is really interesting. I thought Tarkin looked really nervous when Vader was saying this will be a great day, or like this is like victory is assured. There was something on his face like he wasn't quite sure, and I thought that was really interesting. And I think there's another shot of him later. I don't know if I wrote that one down, but like as the battle goes along, he gets more confident. But there is this kind of like almost like a premonition on his part. I feel like almost like this ominous foreboding
Yeah.
he's feeling. Like something's not quite right, but he doesn't know what. And I got all that just from that little bit of acting. So yeah, I don't know if you guys
And
clocked
Peter
that at all,
Cushing,
but I
man.
just thought that was really
God, what a
interesting.
guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
Peter be smoking on that Kush, man.
I see it a little more in the end scene a little bit later when they're asking him to. It's like, "Oh, should we evacuate?" And he goes, "In our moment of triumph, absolutely not." And then he immediately goes to like
Yeah,
the look on
yeah.
his face. He's like,
I love that.
yeah, there's something there. Yeah, it's like he's putting on a face a bit but it's just a trope I love, like this sense of ominous destiny, where
Yeah.
someone just gets a feeling but they don't know why.
yeah.
you know?
To me, I always kind of saw that as like, he was like, "Well, if either we win here, and then we get in trouble because they got so close, or I just go down with the ship."
Yeah, that's a good point
So
too.
I don't know.
That's a good point
Maybe
too.
that's
I mean,
completely off base.
yeah, he has
but
no real
yeah,
reason to believe that they could
yeah, that's true
take them
too.
out because they don't know what the
Right,
plans
and
were.
they have
Yeah.
supposedly they have no idea that that weakness even existed. It was supposed to be such a closely guarded
Right.
secret. But
Yeah, they only realize it when they start attacking. And speaking of which, R2 and Luke, we set them up for the first time as like a real pair on their own here. You know,
Yeah, good point.
because like him and the X-wing, Luke and R2 and the X-wing are just such an iconic sort of, pairing just visually to me. And like I can just picture like, I wish I could have had like the friggin' X-wing toy with the like R2 and the Luke, but
Mhm.
dude, fuck, just
merchandising.
and the way and like
Yeah.
I love the fact too that C-3PO says to him, "You wouldn't want my life to get boring, would you?"
Yeah. And I wrote that. That's just like a great arc. Yeah, again for C-3PO, just like we knew he cared the whole time, but just like pretending he didn't. And this is a moment of like, please come back. Like, and I love that.
Also, this part is moving. Like we are
Dude, okay, I was gonna say, yeah, final showdown, dude.
Yeah.
I was so fucking hyped during this section. Like, I just forgot how good it was. Like, this is one of the best
Yeah.
sequences in a film ever, I think, man. Like, the way it escalates, the way it's cutting back before the visuals of it, like, oh my god, it's so good.
You get the groups of the X-wings, the Y-wings that are all there, the call-outs for all the red leader and gold leader, all that, and just everyone who's involved.
all the nerd
the
talk.
setup to get to all of that. It's just such a great,
Yeah.
like you said, a great sequence of events that gets to the culmination of everything. Just move.
Yeah.
It's like you really feel the tension and the anticipation. They're like, okay, we're getting ready for this. Oh shit! Okay, now we're lining up.
And it has a pace to it, like where at first it's just like a battle, and we've all seen a battle before, fun, tense. But as they're getting closer and closer to the end of this sequence, like things just start moving faster. Like it says escalate. Like I just wrote them all down. Like Tarkin refuses to evacuate. Picked off one by one. They miss the shot to get in. You see Leia starting to get scared. Like the guy next to her is like putting his hand on her.
Yeah.
Biggs and Wedge, they get fucking blown up. Then we get what I would call the atonement with the father for Luke, which is turning off the targeting computer. And then R2D2 gets blown away, and then the Death Star is in firing range of the planet. Like it's all just like, it's so good. It's like watching like an eclipse or something, where it's just like as soon as this happens, it's like every like
I mean, and more of the setup,
everything is in tune.
More of the setup for this too is like calling out to Luke being a good pilot, like from the very beginning, right? Like you were saying, like I was talking about, like it's not common for people to be just regular pilots, right? So even at the cantina, he's just kind of like, he's like, oh yeah, you're gonna buy your own ship. Well, who's gonna fly it? And Luke says, I'm not such a bad pilot myself, right? And so many other little things of like Luke,
the 2 meter wide target, when they present that to him, he's like,
it's like, oh yeah, I have to do that on my
impossible.
own.
Yeah, and he's like, I did that back home.
I used to murder rats back home, no problem. And they're not much bigger than 2 meters.
And along with this
think of a 2 meter long rat.
That's 6 feet.
All the womp rats.
That's 6 feet. I also like along the lines of setup is that we have, before they start getting picked off, we have the setup of Obi-Wan communicating with Luke, and starting to tell him, don't trust the technology, trust your connection to the Force. So it is,
it's like your eyes will deceive you.
Yeah, and like that, there's that thread coming back, and it's not just like, oh, in the moment where it's crucial, we finally do it. No, you like build to it, you include it in all of those moments leading up to that beautiful culmination of everything in the film clicking into place.
Yeah. And I just gotta say, I love just the design of all the visual displays of like showing showing the tracking of the hole, and like the two bars that are closing in as the meters close. All that is like, it shows like through Vader's ship, it's showing like a scan of the ship of the X-wings in front of them and all that. It's just like so cool, man.
Feels very 90s video games.
Yeah.
Or even older, really. Like I remember I had this like weird like battleship like thing that's just like, just like black graphics on like a gray background. It's like it felt like that, like the target
Yeah.
comes into place and you shoot to like try and hit it.
Yeah.
But it's awesome. It works. It feels so real and like like it just lived in again. Another great shout out to the production design done here, dude. And again, the sound, the music, everything working together as one to like fucking put the fucking ribbon on this gift of a film.
It is a gift of a film.
Absolute gift.
I have Rescue from Without. One of
Han?
the steps in the hero's journey. Han coming in to save Luke.
I say the magic flight is just them going towards the Death, like literally the flight to the Death Star, right? Is that where?
Yeah, or like when they're flying away before the ship explodes, or like somewhere in there. Yeah. I have Luke destroying the Death Star as his apotheosis. Him trusting in the Force.
Yeah.
And it is in a way also an ultimate boon, I think. Like
I wasn't quite sure where that fit in here, so I'm curious what you think about that.
I would say maybe the ultimate boon was could be Obi-Wan becoming one with the Force and is therefore able to like give them guidance from all of that. Maybe, I don't know, but also
I think the ultimate boon is he is exploring his connection with the Force, right? He is obviously deepened it, used it to defeat the Death Star. The Death Star blowing up is this visual representation of his newfound sort of gift that he's exploring. I did say like the medal I think is another great visual because it is sort of like him being crowned a master of two worlds.
Sure.
Totally. That's a great point too. Yeah, I basically agree. I put down the ultimate boon is faith in the Force.
Yeah,
that was
for
like
sure.
Yeah,
the
I would say
closest
that
I
for
could
sure.
get.
Yeah.
I do feel like the opening of the doors into the ceremony, because of the visual of a threshold, feels a little bit like a return. Like it is, he is like now returning to a society, right? It's his new group that he's a part of, like, and it's outside of the like
I can see that.
realms of war, like in this sort of like time of implied
Playing
peace.
the song in my head now.
Totally. Yeah. Well, I had forgotten how good the ceremony song is, man. It is gorgeous. There's like multiple beautiful themes within it.
And then
like,
it just culminates in them.
Yeah, into the credits.
I'm watching Empire right after this. I'm watching Empire. I almost did, but it was like it was too late.
So
I had to
good.
refrain from like getting too far in because once I do one, I have to just keep going, and then it's just.
Yeah, man.
More so recently, I start with Rogue One and then I go into everything else. But, just so goddamn good.
I hear Skeleton Crew
So
is
really
good
are.
as well. I've heard good things about Skeleton Crew.
I've heard mixed
I haven't
things.
even heard of that one.
I've heard mixed things about Skeleton Crew, but I think I'm gonna watch it anyway.
Yeah,
That's a show?
yeah.
Wow.
I didn't watch Ahsoka.
Me neither.
Just should, but I don't know. I used to think there was never too much Star Wars, and lately it's been feeling like, oh man, another thing to watch.
I do just want to to put sorry, a little bit of a quick bow on this. I do want to say I also feel like with the freedom to live, like Luke is a pilot now. He's proven himself as a pilot. He's free to live as a pilot. And a member of the Alliance,
Yeah.
And the defeat of the Empire at the end of this movie, right?
That's what I put as freedom to live, even though, like, within the confines of this movie, the big threat has been destroyed.
Yeah.
They're not going to get blown up. Like, they can live longer. Like, there is freedom there, right? They're not under the oppressive thumb of the Empire for now, right?
Oh, no.
And the way the movie's set up, like, that's the only thing, that's the representation of the Empire. Like, do they even mention the Emperor in this movie?
No.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Don't they say?
Oh yeah,
he dissolves.
They
the
did
Senate.
mention him, I think, at the conference. Yeah.
Oh right. Yeah.
And they did something else. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, when this first came out, right, there was no indication that there was going to be anything else like this. This was the one that was the isolated movie that then was like, okay, we're going to make something else of this too. So.
Well, I think George said that he had always planned.
Yeah, sure, he had envisioned it, right? But I think even in this movie, he was like, I don't know that I'm going to get the opportunity to make anything else too, right? Like, and this was the one before the prequels came out. This was the one that he directed too, right? Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi were all other folks.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
George.
Just
I like that
George,
you
like he's your friend.
I like that you called him George.
He's my buddy. What can I
I
say?
pictured a monkey being chased by a guy in a yellow hat.
What was that monkey curious?
Very.
So okay, last time we said we were gonna do the tier rankings anymore, and we are gonna save it for a larger episode. Fredo and I discussed it a bit. We decided it's still fun to do the tier rankings individually for the movie after each one, but we're gonna have a episode like probably near the end of the year where we create our combined tier ranking, and that's where we're gonna debate our tiers and try to come to a consensus on where we land.
Can we start? Well, let's start with last week, to make up for
Yeah.
not doing it, because I do also want to talk a little cultural impact. I feel like we've peppered a little bit of it, but I feel like maybe just a nice sort of like concluding thoughts from each of us with our tier ranking might be good. But so last week we did Finding Nemo. How do you want to do this? Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
Yeah, well, I think you said it. You said it last time.
I'm also a huge fan of Finding Nemo, and I know that movie quite well, so I'm happy to be involved in this as well.
I mean,
Yeah,
sure,
give
go.
us-
Yeah, what's your tier ranking? S to F. What's your tier ranking for Finding Nemo?
Jeez, it's hard not for me not to give it an S, just because I think
Hey, man,
it's
that's fair.
wonderful.
So
That's fair.
I'll go last to be a sandwich because I know what Connor's gonna say. Connor, go ahead and give your tier ranking.
I know. I'm gonna bum a lot of people out with this. And as I like said in the Finding Nemo episode, I really enjoyed it. But it didn't like elevate for me. I wasn't like super into it. It didn't really hit me like emotionally hard. And as I said in the Matrix episode, so much of your experience with the movies is just like the context of when you're watching it, the mood you're in, right? So like a lot of it wasn't landing for me. For that reason, I am putting Finding Nemo in a C tier, but let me qualify my C tier by saying that I think it's objectively at least a B tier, just because the script is so solid. Like I didn't like in my episode, I really didn't have many complaints for it. It's just like for me, like C is like entertaining, and it was entertaining, but it didn't like hit me emotionally, so it didn't really get to that like higher standing of a B on that viewing for me.
I don't want to get into it, but I do have a thing too, and we did talk about it last time, and this is why we decided to include these, and I'll just include it here because I think we will talk about it when we ultimately try to bring our tier rankings together. But that doesn't quite gel for me. Like the idea of like I can give it an objective tier ranking and a personal tier ranking. To me, I just have like the one, but we can talk about it more and get into the weeds about that. But let's to stem the disappointing and the bleeding, I'll say I give it an S tier. It's just funny, dude. I think I've given two of the three movies an S tier. Spider-Man we gave a B, which I think is fair. Still, super fun, entertaining movie. But again, some beats that didn't quite hit for me in that one, and especially some of the I don't know. Well, we'll talk about it later. I talked about it in the fucking episode, but
I guess just real quick, I'll just say like overall, the way I view it is like a C tier is I liked it. B tier is I really like it. A tier is I fucking love it. S tier is like this is one of my favorite things ever. And then like D tier is like dislike. F is like hate, Just because I gave a C tier to Finding Nemo, I just want to
right.
make sure before I get crucified by all you lovely people out there, I do like it. I did like it.
I would say just like for cultural significance too, like everyone knows lines from Finding Nemo, and it speaks to a story that like the father that's looking for his kid, right? So I think it just depend. I guess you're right, depending on the mood that you watched under. But me, I have for me, thinking about like my own father doing that for me just really tugs at my heartstrings. And then I don't know, it's a little surprising for me to hear you give it. I mean, sure you liked it, yeah, but also like the music and the theme in that movie in which they use sound is incredible. So it
is good.
Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Again, it's just that it really all comes down to not getting much of an emotional reaction.
Right,
That's
for
the
sure.
difference between C and B, and On a different day, totally could see it like rocking me.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think I disagree with those criteria.
Yeah, for me alone though, just like the music really pulls you into the feeling of it. Like right, like when someone's disappointed and sad in that, the music makes you feel really sad. Right? So I
Yeah.
think all of that, those points of that really make that just such an incredible movie to watch
Yeah.
for me. And the
And yeah,
visuals
and
themselves are also incredibly well done.
yeah.
Um
I mean,
but
we talked about it for an hour and a half, and
yeah.
it was pretty much a glowing review. Like, I recognize the greatness in it for sure. But, just personal, relation to how it impacted me is what I'm
Yeah,
ranking here.
I think that's what's hard for me to like consolidate in my head is because I feel like I would like if it had been a C tier for me, I would not have spoken about it the way that you did. But again, we'll talk about this
Yeah, it's gonna be a
at a
fun
later
debate.
date.
Yeah. Anyway, Star Wars tier ranking. Who would like to go first?
Give it to Eric, dude, the guest, the man of the
Yeah.
hour.
I mean, I feel like it's not a surprise. This is, I mean, most of my life revolves around this godforsaken movie that's incredible and
Hell
amazing.
yeah.
But also just, I guess, some people might call it cheesy or whatever you might call it, but um it's just it hits a place for me that's just feels like home. It's so much of
Yeah.
it is things that I love and I'm interested in. It's science fiction. It has practical effects that were made to last a long time that got ruined by stupid inserted CGI in 2005 or whatever the fuck. But I mean, it's all still wonderful.
2004.
2004, sure. But I mean, again, like we said in all this, the music really plays so much of a role in your emotional feelings to this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just an incredible movie, whether it's because of my personal feelings for it or whatever it is. I don't really give a shit. So for me, it lands in the S
Absolutely.
sections for sure.
Yeah, nothing controversial about that, I don't think. For me, I this might be surprising to you guys. I'm struggling a bit with my answer here. I do love this movie, so it's at least an A, but it's like bordering to like, is it one of my because I will say Empire Strikes Back, easy S tier for me. Like maybe top 5 movie for me. I freaking love Empire Strikes Back. This one, like this ending sequence, S tier sequence, like like I said, one of the best sequences in a film ever. But like, it doesn't quite ascend to being one of my favorite things ever as a movie as a whole. It's like, it's up there. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it an A just because I have that hesitation.
I respect your hesitation. I thought, well, honestly, didn't think about it that much until just now. I was pretty sure I knew what I was gonna give it, and then I started thinking more about if I wanted to adjust it. And I'll say this: I gave The Matrix S tier. I gave Finding Nemo an S tier. I gave Spider-Man B tier. I later told Connor off mic that I was considering between C and B, but I think there was enough of an emotional center that it did get me up to like a B. And I will say different movies can get an S tier for different reasons. The Matrix to me is an S tier film because of its tackling of philosophy and it's really taut storytelling. Finding Nemo to me is an S tier because of taut storytelling and its emotional center. I mean, I talked about it in the episode, dude. Like just like Eric said with the thing about like your dad, like I'm a very family motivated person, so that like speaks to me very deeply. And I think Star Wars it misses a little bit on the heart for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like thinking, oh, of course S tier. And just now I had my sort of like moment of like, well, would I? Maybe it's an A tier film, but I am the mayor of the town of context. I said it before. I love contextualizing things. Like, you want me to tell you how I rank this movie in a vacuum? Never. That's never going to happen.
Yeah.
This film opened up a world to so many people.
Yeah.
And just this one by itself, I think because of the score, the sound design, and the production design, and the clever game along with the storytelling, I think it is an S tier movie.
Yeah, very well deserved. I came into this discussion pretty confident I was gonna give it an A tier, but then like just when we were talking through the whole thing and just like how good so much of it is in the score, like you said, it's just like the imagination behind it. It's like unreached in a lot of ways. So it's like
the
man,
implications of the world
Yeah,
as well
and I
are
mean,
Yeah.
so
like
vast.
to what you were saying earlier, Empire Strikes Back is for sure my favorite of the films, but like I can't really, like Fredo said too, I can't look at any of this in a vacuum anymore, right? Like this
Mhm.
encompasses the Star Wars experience for me, and it started with this one, and this also like started the cultural phenomenon that was Star Wars, was this movie,
Yeah,
right? And so like
absolutely.
I
They
can't.
got to make Empire because this one
Yeah.
Yeah,
fucks.
because of the way this one, like the reaction to this movie, and like I didn't get to be around for that. None of it, like we were too young, not even around, right? Like, but it's still just, even my first experience watching this is like the residual effect that it had on the world as a whole led to me watching four dudes be fucking psyched about it in a movie theater when I was,
Yeah,
however old I was when I watched that, right? And I was
absolutely.
just kind of like, that's how impactful this movie was. And like, again, maybe I wasn't around for the initial wave of that, but hitting it for me, I'm like, oh yeah, this for sure is just, like Fredo just said, open up a whole world of what I would grow up to start enjoying, like just science
Right.
fiction and like music, right? Like I played in orchestras where we got to play Star Wars music,
Yeah,
and like the
totally.
chills that I feel from that. There is absolutely no way I can see this movie outside of any of those contexts.
Yeah,
So
totally. Absolutely.
What instrument did you play in orchestra?
I played the violin.
Violin. Okay, I was a sax
So
man,
I did get to do the Luke theme.
bassoon player as well.
That's great.
That's sick as
Great.
fuck. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, thank you so much.
That's good stuff.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Just let me wax poetic about this movie.
We're gonna let you participate in one last thing, but I did want to say thank you because your enthusiasm for this film is
Yeah.
unparalleled and a like ever flowing resource that we're so happy that we got to.
I mean, I think
into.
it's plenty paralleled by others. I would, I don't know. I really love everything about Star Wars, but I don't get bogged down in I don't know. There's a whole fandom that gets a little too into the nitty gritty of some of these things, and I'm like,
Sure.
you know what? Let this piece live as as its own thing, and whatever it means to you is wonderful. But you don't have to impose that into literally everyone around you. All I ever try to do is share my joy in what this movie has brought to me. So
Good advice for
You know.
nerds for nerds everywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just thinking while you're talking there that this is a little meeting with the goddess moment for all the super hardcore nerds
Oh yeah,
out there.
well, maybe. Let's see.
Supernatural aid, super Erical aid.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've been waiting for a long time for this
Yes,
moment,
we have.
Alfredo and I, because we have no idea what we are watching next week. And that is because we have come to the end of the hero's journey, and we are going to pick another category right now.
Right, the frig now.
And as we've said, basically at the end of each month, we're going to randomly select one of our 8 categories for the rest of the year. The reason there are 8 categories and not 10 for the remaining month, you might be wondering, for those astute listeners out there, is that in October we will have a secret spooky surprise for you. And then in December, we will have an even extra special surprise.
Yeah.
Spooky
that we're very
and
excited about.
special. Oh my goodness.
I don't actually know how
Yes.
much we've set this up truly, but I want to lay it out full bare bones. As we've
Yeah,
said,
please
every
do.
month we're randomly assigned a category. So the way it's going to work is that on the 4th episode of every month, the one where we review the final film of the category, at the end of the episode, we're going to spin the legally distinct movie roulette and be randomly assigned one of these 8 categories. I'm going to go ahead and read these out to y'all right now. And maybe we can just a quick little rap about what they're each about. But so we've got
And just a reminder, this is a legally distinct roulette wheel.
it's the reel
That's right.
of film. The reel of film. So the first category, in no particular order, is it could be anyone. So the idea of that being not just murder mysteries, but also potential shape shifting. Who knows? It's all fair.
Ooh,
It's
a
all
classic
fair game.
whodunit,
It's all
if
fair
you
game,
will.
sort of in this, like where it could be anyone. Then we have people
Yeah.
who are good at stuff. This is about people where the story is about their mastery over their craft, and that's sort of a central part of the plot. We have out of order, and these are films that don't happen in a like direct narrative order,
Chronological.
chronological
Yeah.
narrative order. You can think of examples. I just don't want to name any because then that's going to ruin it. Then we've got movies in motion. Those are, I'm not going to explain that one. Then we have, I'm not going to explain this one either. Save the best for last.
Vague and beautiful. Like, ooh.
Like I said, I'm not explaining this
I love
one
the
either.
intrigue in these options.
I'm not going to
This
explain
is
the
good.
rest of them, actually. So save the best for last. Desert movies. That's one category. Then we have aliens. Then we have trapped, and we have aquatic film. I got the.
Is desert movies you're just gonna watch every Dune movie ever made? Is that what?
You'll have to tune in and find
you will
out.
have to,
Goodness.
you will have to tune in to find out.
And maybe we'll find out right now. It could be what we're about to spin the wheel on. This is a big moment for Cinema Forecast history.
I wait with bated breath.
Yeah, give me 1 second
Yeah,
while
so
I
do
get
we
this,
all.
while I get this all set up to capture this moment in all its glory. I guess this is a little inside baseball. I'm gonna share my screen with you guys so that you guys can see as well.
Oh my gosh.
This is our first
Oh my
remote
gosh, I'm so-
episode we've recorded. Peek behind.
Oh
the
yeah,
curtain.
yeah. We didn't mention that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're not in the same state with our good friend Erik here, so.
And Connor and I were feeling lazy.
Undisclosed location.
Langley, Virginia. All right, so you can see the thing. I can see the thing.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna go ahead.
Let's spin this bad
Are you guys
boy. I'm
ready?
so excited. What? Yeah, spin it.
Okay.
We're spinning it, folks. We're spinning it.
We're doing it.
Oh my God,
man.
it's spinning. It's spinning.
Oh, that wound up. I was like, really? That okay.
Oh shit.
Oh, yes! You called it, Erik.
Oh my God.
You heard it here, folks. Save the best for last. Desert movies is what we will be watching for the month of March. And the first movie on that list, Fredo.
Yep, I got it right here. Definitely don't have to look around for it too much.
Oh, I actually remember, so I got you, buddy. The first movie we'll be watching is Tremors.
Tremors.
We're gonna watch Tremors next week.
Well, that's kind of like Dune.
yeah.
a movie that Connor introduced me to, I believe.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Oh man.
I haven't watched it since then, but I'm excited.
A cousin of
Yeah,
mine
I'm very
introduced me
excited.
to all the Tremors movies, and he was absolutely obsessed with them. And I think I watched one and was like, "What the fuck?" and then never watched them again.
The sequels are really weird.
Yeah.
The first one I do think is a little bit of a masterpiece, but we'll get into
I need,
that next week.
I need to watch those again too, so I might join you on the watch, but not on the episode.
Hell yeah, brother. Well, Erik, it's been amazing having you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for joining us.
Thanks
this
so
was
much
so
for
much
having
fun,
me,
guys.
I had a blast.
Thank you so very much, Erik. I also want to take this moment because this is the first episode we've recorded since we've released an episode. The Matrix, our first episode just recently dropped. I want to thank anyone and everyone out there who listened, be they friends and family or strangers. We appreciate the feedback you've given us. Just know that we are here to engage with it as well. As long as we can stay civil, we're more than happy to have conversations. Actually, regarding the feedback, that's why we decided to right up off the top of this episode introduce the concept, because we noticed that was something that we didn't do in the first episode. So thank you so much for pointing that out, and check us out. We're Cinema Forecast on social media on Instagram, on YouTube. That's Cinema, and then Forecast spelled like Fourcast, because we do 4 movies a month. Get it? Come on, it's good.
Nah,
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Special shout out to Ted.
like that.
Ted has been also a really awesome help. Much appreciation with all the help with the logo design and being a sounding board to bounce ideas off of.
Yes, thank you, Ted.
Yeah, Ted, I don't know you, but thank you so much.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you on the cast.
Yeah, fucking see you next time.
We're gonna go with that, huh?
See you in the desert, baby.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll see you sometime in the future, folks.
Yeah.
It was a
Oh
pleasure
yeah.
to be
Eric
on
will
today.
definitely be back on.
Yeah,
All right,
for
guys.
sure. Have a good one.
Good night.